the heavenly demon divine cult leader is begged to get out of his meditative pose and do something about the attack on their temple by the 9 big sects of the orthodox and unorthodox sects. However, the leader was separated from his physical body while practicing divine arts and now floats around in a ghostly, incorporeal form, invisible to everyone and unable to return. At that moment, a black portal opens up in front of him. His ghost form is unable to defend against it, and he gets sucked in. In modern times, a boy who gets bullied very often suddenly jerks awake in his room. 2 years ago, portals to another dimension opened all over the world and allowed entry to monsters that humans had to equip themselves with the strongest weapons to fight. However, all modern weapons were useless against the monsters, and just when the human race was about to be annihilated, people started to awaken special abilities. Park Hyunsoo is among the one of the world who remained powerless throughout this event. He worries about the hospital discharging Hyuntae, his younger brother, if Hyunsoo doesn't pay the charges soon and is considering suicide. At that moment, a portal opens up behind him, and the heavenly demon divine cult leader pops out and falls on top of Hyunsoo. The leader is surprised to note that Hyunsoo can see him before he pushes him away. As he looks around the room, he is still unable to physically touch any of the objects there. Hyunsoo is confused and afraid about the leader's presence, who is even more startled to learn he can touch Hyunsoo. He then floats out of the room and onto the unfamiliar roads, where he attempts to stop a passerby, but his hand passes through him, so he rushes away. After Hyunsoo covers up the portal in his wall, he gets a call from B-rank hunter Kim Hak-sung, inviting him to help with a B-rank portal that opened nearby. As the cult leader appears back in Hyunsoo's room, he informs him that he tried to run away but was dragged back here. As Hyunsoo prepares to leave for the portal, the leader, watching his slow pace, follows him and picks him up by his backpack before setting off at a high speed using the heavenly demon flight. The cult leader flies Hyunsoo through the sky, surprising the people below. He drops him on the ground when they reach the bus stop. Hyunsoo sits in the bus, assuming he has left, but the old man is ready to tag along with him. Together, they reach Gangdong, or Mount Ilja, where the portal is located at the peak. Kim Hak-sung takes charge as the leader of their team and announces necessary instructions. Ayarin, a B-rank hunter, requests that the experienced take care of the newbies. As everyone makes last-minute preparations, Shuai Jeon-sung, also a B-rank hunter and a bully, interrupts Hyunsoo. He tells him to try his best, albeit mockingly, and walks away. When the team makes their entrance into the portal, the cult leader follows Hyunsoo inside. They appear on a dry desert land, and Kim Hak-sung advises everyone to look for the out-of-concept part of the portal. As the team sets up camp, the cult leader tells Hyunsoo to stand in front and explore the place, but Hyunsoo refuses. He then tells Hyunsoo that the water veins beneath the dry land feel like they're fluctuating. Sure enough, the measuring apparatus confirms that water is their out-of-concept. At that moment, water gushes out of the ground all around them, and with it come mermen. The entrance to a dungeon is usually a safe zone, but the team is ambushed and starts falling at the hands of merman attacks. Seeing even a B-rank hunter have a hard time fighting them off makes Hyunsoo panic. As he hands the hunter's weapons, he is attacked and receives a deep gash in his torso, despite the bulletproof vest he was wearing. A merman begins to strike him again, but its face suddenly gets blown off by the cult leader using a powerful technique called the Demon King Strike. The hunters struggle against the merman, but the cult leader easily dodges their attacks and takes them down in single strikes. He then uses a technique called the Chaos Demon Flash to destroy all enemies within 50 yards. The hunters notice that the attack came from Hyunsoo and look at him with disbelief. The boss of the merman shows up next, and the cult leader charges at it as well, prepared to kill it, but finds that his origin key has dissipated and he can no longer touch them. The merman goes after Hyunsoo and sends him flying after an attack that he barely manages to block. The cult leader warns him that he might die if he doesn't do something as another attack comes his way. The old man pushes Hyunsoo's arm out of the way of the attack just in time and carries him away from the monster. He then tells Hyunsoo to look at the monster's body, And note that despite its strong muscles, it has thin legs and its jutting bones appear weak, especially the collarbone. He pushes Hyunsoo to make use of the information and fight back. Following the cult leader's instructions, Hyunsoo lands an uppercut on a monster, followed by an elbow into its collarbone, taking it to the ground. The old man tells him to finish the job using a spear. When Hyunsoo hesitates, the leader makes him understand he doesn't have time to waste in this warlike situation. This prompts a flashback to the time when his family was attacked in their car by a monster that ended up killing his parents and hospitalizing his brother. Motivated by the memory, Hyunsoo stabs the monster with the spear and kills it. A blue dialogue box shows up, telling him he has exceeded his limits using a strong existence. Hyunsoo realizes he has been finally awakened as his skill window pops up. Hyunsoo's skill window shows he has awakened the ability of listening to instructions, which he considers a useless ability. The hunters have finally taken down all the rest of the merman monsters, but with how exhausted they are, Kim Hak-sung decides to retreat, realizing they might have measured the portal wrong. Supporting the injured, the team prepares to leave. Hyunsoo realizes he might have died if not for the cult leader's help. Hak-sung then calls him to the side to talk. As Hyunsoo wonders if he'll be punished, they exit the portal, and it is announced that the dead will be greatly rewarded through the association. This is followed by the announcement of Hyunsoo's awakening. As he is congratulated, Hyunsoo realizes that this is probably what Hak-sung wanted to talk to him about. The team packs up their equipment for the return journey. Hyunsoo is interrupted by Chua Jeon-sung, who inquires about his awakened ability. Hyunsoo knows he'll be a laughingstock if he reveals it, and when the old man comments on it, he tells him to keep quiet. Choi Jun-sung then swings his hand back to test Hyunsoo's ability, which gets activated. The cult leader instructs him to take a step back, which misses Jong-sung's strike. This increases his attack power to 15 for a limited time. Jong-sung rears back to attack again, and the old man calls out two techniques that imprint themselves in Hyunsoo's mind, which allows him to flawlessly carry them out, sending Jun-sung flying away from the force of the attack. The rest of the hunters are surprised at his ability to take down a B-rank hunter when he has just awakened. Hak-sung lets him off for attacking a colleague as it is his first time, and tells him to get his rank measured. Yarin congratulates him as well, and as she walks away, Hyunsoo begs the cult leader to let him be his disciple and teach him martial arts. The cult leader refuses to take on Hyunsoo as his disciple, but he tries to convince him by telling him that, were it not for him, he could have died in the portal, and if he dies, the old man will not be able to return home. The leader asks if Hyunsoo would be able to move freely everywhere when he has learned martial arts, to which Hyunsoo replies that he'll be untouchable if he becomes an S-rank hunter, so therefore, in the end, the cult leader agrees to be his master. At home, the old man asks Hyunsoo about the sheets he put up to hide the portal he came out of. As he removes them, the old man floats back inside it and carries Hyunsoo in with him. They are led to a bizarre, empty white space, which the leader thinks is perfect to train him. He then orders him to take off his shirt and sit down in front of him, so that he can open his meridian pathways and 8 cultivation flow. To learn martial arts, Hyunsoo's energy and blood flow need to be opened. The leader then proceeds to land slap after painful slap on Hyunsoo's back, which, if he can't endure, he won't be able to learn martial arts. The old man is surprised when all the pathways in his body are opened in a short time. It is a pity Hyunsoo was born in an era where martial arts didn't exist, because he has the perfect body for them. After they have exited the portal, Hyunsoo feels light enough to fly, so he jumps up and crashes his head into the ceiling. It turns out the cult leader also transferred a seed of the heavenly demon divine art to him, even though there was an 80% chance he might have died during the process. The next day, Hyunsoo shows up for an appointment to get his rank measured, and the desk girl, recognizing him instantly, asks for a selfie. She then guides him to the evaluation department, where he witnesses someone scoring a 687 on the machine. The girl is told to hit harder than 900 if she wants to be an A-ranker by the evaluation department head, Jeon Noksu. He then notices Hyunsoo and calls him in, introducing him to Jang Hoon, who is honored to meet him thanks to the rumor about him teaching Jun-sung a lesson. The girl, Han-won, is transferred to the assistant manager, Kim, while Jang-hoon conducts Hyunsoo's examination. When Hyunsoo is ready, the measuring machine is turned on. The leader tells him to feel the internal energy that's in his dantian and put the rushing crush technique he performed the previous day into practice. His ability is activated as Hyunsoo feels an incredible energy course through his body. Gathering all that energy, he lands a powerful punch on the machine, managing a high score of 1120. Noksu tells him this means he is an A rank. Anything higher than 1500 would mean S rank. They then proceed to the next test, the kick power test, where Hyunsoo scores a 1377. The old man tells him that if he had used his internal energy faster, he would have hit 1500 already. Hyunsoo continues to the rest of the tests and scores A rank level points in each, leaving only the most important test, the virtual battle. He is advised to eat something before coming back to take it in the afternoon. At the canteen, Hyunsoo savors a bowl of ramen. Later, he approaches the virtual battle room, which Hanwoo is just exiting. The virtual battle room was made by a genius engineer and S-rank hunter, Anderson Walker. The virtual battleground gives you a real-life experience of fighting monsters. If you get injured by the virtual enemy, your movements will also be restricted accordingly. There are a total of 10 levels. Since Hyunsoo is an A rank, he'll start at level 4. The battle begins, and Hyunsoo finds himself in the middle of a lush green forest. It looks like it was made by someone who's proficient in the mystical dimension technique. It's normally used to either confuse one's enemies or conceal something. The monsters start coming in, and Hyunsoo takes them down easily until an ogre appears. He asks for the old man's help, but is told to deal with it on his own. So he boosts himself up and strikes at the ogre, except it regenerates itself in an instant and scoops him up in its fist, struggling in his tight grip around his body. Hyunsoo forces himself to breathe steadily and radiate his internal energy throughout his body. He then starts feeling it, the heavenly demon's internal energy that Master gave him, spreading in his body, and just like that, he clears level 4. The administrator has never seen someone destroy the suppression machine while clearing a level. An A-rank hunter affiliated with the association, Lee Minor, agrees Hyunsoo's A-force to be reckoned with. On the other hand, on level 5, Hyunsoo has to deal with vampires. Hyunsoo is different from the others Minor has seen so far and has an incredible battle posture. With his swift movements, Hyunsoo defeats all the vampires, clears level 5, earns a 30-minute break, and becomes the first A-rank hunter to make it to level 6. He has to go and register himself in the office now, where he runs into Lee Mina, who introduces herself to him and offers a contract from the association. It'll be a satisfactory contract for any A-rank hunter, she says, and it has all the perks of a decent job. However, the old master is of the opinion that he shouldn't make a contract with a 10-year contract period so easily. Hyunsoo can do 5 years, and the risk pay is lower than expected, even though he might be required to enter an S-rank portal. Although Lee Minor is a little miffed at his objections, she has to go along with them, since the association can't lose a prolific hunter with the potential to become an S-rank. At that moment, a woman from Red Lion barges into the meeting and introduces herself as Hei-Yurak, an S-rank hunter herself. She claims that the Red Lions will give him more than the association. Hyunsoo's master observes that the new woman, Hei-Yurak, is stronger than anyone he's met since he's arrived in this world. She is also the guild leader of the strongest guild in Korea, the Red Lion. Hei-Yurak discloses that Red Lion now possesses the same rights as the association. They're just waiting for an official decision by the committee. Hyunsoo is pretty amazed that the guild is at the same level as a national establishment. At Mount Ilja, inside the B-rank portal, hunters are fighting monsters that keep coming, and when the situation gets so bad, they have to inform the team leader. A team leader can use unique authority in times of emergency. It's called the Shadow Clone Technique, an ultimate S-rank technique that can last for 10 minutes. Just when they think they've come to the shore and are out of harm's way, a monster emerges and takes the team leader in its jaws. Hyunsoo left and took neither the Red Lions nor the association's offer. Master will be teaching him the heavenly demon dominating stride from now on. Hyunsoo would need to learn the heavenly demon's dominating stride before he can start learning the martial arts of his master. Instructing Hyunsoo to observe him closely, Master performs the first of the 5 strides, Heavenly Demon Emergence. It should be light and soft, but the master's movement makes it seem like it's not. Hyunsoo fails to understand what's happening and is instructed to observe more through a lot of trial and error. The second stride is the Heavenly Demon Flight, which, as the name suggests, involves flying. If Hyunsoo masters both the flight and emergent skills, he'll be able to use up to the first 6 techniques of the cult-exclusive Heaven Obliterating Demonic Fists, which is a transcendent skill. Immediately, Master shows him the next stride, Heavenly Demon Soul Breakout, which is designed especially to kill your enemies stealthily. The 4th stride is Heavenly Demon Soul Shed. It's self-explanatory, meaning you move so fast as if your soul is leaving your body while taking away your opponent's soul. It's one of Master's favorite strides for counterattacking. Hyunsoo can't even see the movements, let alone comprehend them. If he masters Soul Breakout and Soul Shed, he'd be able to use up to the 5th technique of the second half of the Heaven Obliterating Demonic Fists. There are a total of 12 techniques. In order for him to use the last technique, the 12th technique, he'd need to master the 5th stride of the Heavenly Demon, Dominating Stride, to meet the basic requirements. The 5th stride is the Heavenly Demon Ruler's Descent to stand above everything by making everything kneel. The survivors from the Mount Ilja incident are 4 B-rank hunters and 5 supporters. Team leader Odeho is dead. The Triple Circle Mount Ilja portal expedition that's under the charge of the association has failed. Everyone in the conference room in the association's building starts blaming each other until Lee Mina stands up and proposes a solution. Hyunsoo is surprised to find himself waking up in his room. Master tells him he fainted because he couldn't take the training when he was trying out the Heavenly Demon Dominating Stride. It's your footwork that allows you to step into the air like you're stepping on clouds. Master tells him it's impossible for Hyunsoo to do it right now, for he would need to have at least 120 years worth of internal energy. So Hyunsoo needs to focus on increasing his internal energy and mastering emergence and flight first. Meanwhile, Lee Minor proposes that the association start working with external parties, specifically Red Lion, but the conference attendees don't take that well. Hyunsoo got his money, and after paying Hyuntai's hospital bills, he'd be left with nothing, so he contemplates signing a contract. So many guilds are contacting him already after Red Lion and the association. Meanwhile, the sea monsters attack and claim a neighborhood as their territory, bringing floods to the city. Yeon, a girl Hyunsoo knows from the convenience store, and for whom he has a soft spot, is also under threat. The old master feels a bizarre overflow of energy, while Hyunsoo practices energy circulation, which doesn't just increase internal energy, but also purges the impure energy within the body. Hyunsoo was able to comprehend the emergence and flight thanks to listening to instructions more than observing. Back at the association, an emergency has been declared because the Mount Ilja portal has broken open, and all the sea monsters from there are on the loose, already wreaking havoc in the city. Instructing others to gather as many people as possible, Lee Minor rushes to the site, knowing Isaac Guild won't be able to take care of it alone. When Hyunsoo opens the TV, he finally learns that the Gangdong-gu area has been attacked by mermen. Realizing with a jolt that that's Yeon's neighborhood, he makes a dash for the door to make sure she's safe. Using Heavenly Demon Flight, he gets there in a very short amount of time. Other hunters are trying their best, but the monsters are too strong. Before a merman can take 2 more of the hunters, including Black Panther, Hyunsoo comes and charges at the monster with a regular martial art move, but infuses it with internal energy. Although Hyunsoo's move is impressive and shocks everyone, the monster is still not dead. When his legs begin to hurt, Master advises him to use internal energy throughout his body to strengthen them. Stuck in a traffic jam, on the other hand, Lee Minor gets out of the car to get to the site quickly. Using the adapted version of Heavenly Demon Flight, Hyunsoo fires a punch under the chin of the snake monster, but the monster deflects and counterattacks while under the control of its leader, a sorcerer who's looking over the fight from a distance and controlling all her beasts. Hayurak arrives right on time, and Master takes the opportunity to take the injured Hyunsoo away. Other hunters save Yeon, and Hyunsoo is not happy that Ho-Yurak has taken charge of what is his prey. The Master advises Hyunsoo to recover with energy circulation, but Hyunsoo is ready to go back out into the fight to avenge the deaths of his parents. Glad to see his fighting spirit, Master informs him there's a way, but he'll need to bear the consequences later. As Ho-Yurak navigates around the water to fight the monsters, the old Master bestows upon Hyunsoo a power that is like a trial for the one he'll eventually receive. Ho-Yurak dodges the monsters' attacks and blows them up in a burst of fire before the huge, serpent-like monster finally makes its appearance. She charges at it, a ball of fire ready in her hand, while Hyunsoo receives the power, cringing in pain. Ho-Yurak causes an explosion large enough to damage the serpent monster, which forces the sorceress to reveal herself. Before she can attack her, Ho-Yurak sends a burst of fire her way that sends her falling towards the water. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo is all powered up, having awakened the heavenly demon body temporarily. Without anyone to heal its injuries, the serpent monster dives into the water, and Ho-Yurak follows. However, she gets caught in the way when it releases a beam of energy and is thrown back into a building. Her guild members inform her of the successful evacuation of all the surrounding buildings. So, without a worry, Ho-Yurak gathers all her energy and lets it burst out in a mighty explosion. All buildings have come down, leaving no place for the serpent monster to hide. She's about to launch her final attack at it, but Hyunsoo arrives right at that moment and stops her. Worried about Hyunsoo, Lee Minor finds a way to rush to his side. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo asks Ho-Yurak to let him kill the serpent monster, but she refuses. Without waiting to convince her or making promises about joining her guild in exchange, Hyunsoo takes off at a speed so fast Ho-Yurak is unable to see his movement. Approaching the monster, Hyunsoo uses the heaven-obliterating demonic fists, first technique, and lands a powerful punch that makes the monster spit blood. As it falls down, Hyunsoo comes up to it and uses the second technique right in its face. The monster still manages to recover enough to charge back at Hyunsoo, who dodges using the heavenly flight. He then activates the third technique, and finally, with one powerful punch, he kills the monster, surprising both Ho-Yurak and Lee Minor, who had just arrived. As soon as the fight is over, the power leaves his body, and all the previous injuries and exhaustion return, making him cough up blood. The two women go after him when he falls from the sky, unconscious. The rest of the guild members take care of the injured and clean up. Later, Hyunsoo wakes up in the hospital, and has to be reminded of recent events by his master before Lee Minor and Ho-Yurak come to visit him. In the aftermath of the last battle, the association and various guild members search for the remaining mermen so as to completely secure the city. In the hospital, Minor and Yurak tend to Hyunsoo to help him recover from his injuries. Minor then shows Hyunsoo a box containing a pearl that is actually the heart of the monster he killed. The old master calls it an elixir and is surprised to see one with so much energy, 500 years worth of it. Monster hearts are usually dropped by bosses or monsters that have lived for a long time. It possesses strong energy and, if consumed, provides considerable strength to the person. It can help a low-level hunter jump to the next rank. Yurak gives it to Hyunsoo as a present, which prompts an argument between her and Minor over Hyunsoo's attention. Afterwards, the two take turns trying to recruit him to their respective organization. Lee Minor offers him an amended contract that tempts even his master. During her turn, Ho-Yurak correctly guesses that the contract included an immunity to killing people, which she explains is not very useful to an all-powerful S-rank. What he needs is a fence to protect him until he becomes an S-rank hunter. She explains that she and the Red Lions can be that fence. Later, when Lee Minor approaches his room once again, Hyunsoo expresses his regret at not accepting her contract. Instead, since he can't move, he asks her for the association's help with something else. Meanwhile, Chungyeong and her little siblings are attacked in their home by a merman that had been hiding in their bathroom. Chungyeong picks up a kitchen knife and stabs the merman, but it barely feels it and swings its arm to throw her away. Lee Minor arrives just as the monster is about to eat the little girl and crashes into it with her heavy weapon. She then uses her powers to send all sorts of surrounding harmful weapons flying its way. The monster drops to its knees, and she releases one last attack and finishes it. When asked how she knew to come here, Mina tells you she was sent by Hyunsoo. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo gets discharged from the hospital and receives his next big payment. Back at home and inside the portal, the old master begins teaching Hyunsoo how to use the energy of the elixir. 10 of it would grant him 20 years' worth of energy, and if he follows what his master teaches him, he can expect to get 70 of it, which is 140 years' worth of internal energy. The old man then asks him what he intends to do after he becomes that strong. Hyunsoo tells about the start of the portal outbreak 2 years ago, when both his and Chungyeong's parents died. Therefore, now that he's a hunter, he doesn't plan on letting anyone else experience that sadness. The old master wonders if the portal thing is the great enemy his ancestors told him about. The heavenly demons would transfer the memory of their martial arts via their bodies to the next generation. That's the framework that the first heavenly demon made and told the generations that followed, that it was all for the sake of going up against the great enemy. At that moment, Lee Minor comes looking for Hyunsoo at his house, wondering why he's unable to pick up her calls when he's been discharged. She waits at his door, questioning what to do as, inside the portal, the old master tells Hyunsoo to eat the elixir. He takes a bite just when Minor finds his door unlocked and comes inside, only to stumble upon the portal. The ball of the elixir gets lodged in Hyunsoo's mouth, so his master tells him to steady his heart and listen to his instructions. If he doesn't consume such a powerful elixir properly, he might become a vegetable for life. The old man tells Hyunsoo not to think of the elixir as food and to feel its energy. Proceed by pulling the energy from his dantian to his Weilyu acupoint. Then slowly pull it from the Weilyu acupoint to the Baihui acupoint. Outside the portal, Lee Minor assumes that the portal is a patch of mold that she immediately prepares to clean. However, at that moment, she gets a phone call asking her to come back to the association, and she has to leave it be. Meanwhile, the master tells Hyunsoo to bring the energy from the elixir into his macrocosmic orbit. He is surprised to see that the serpent monster had so much yang energy in its elixir. The place called the portal is really something outside of his expectations. However, this is better since the heavenly demon divine arts is an extreme yang martial art, and he'll eventually increase his yang energy anyway. The old man then tells Hyunsoo that when the elixir completely melts, he has to condense it and bring it into the microcosmic orbit. The absorption of the elixir steadily increases from 32% to 50% to 70%, at which point Hyunsoo begins to bleed from his nose, mouth and ears. In a trance, Hyunsoo believes he can absorb more than 80%, so he continues and reaches 90%, gushing out more blood. The old master helps Hyunsoo absorb the remaining 10% and finish the job. As a reward, Hyunsoo obtains an extreme yang physique and his unique ability levels up. Meanwhile, victims of the merman attack are being rushed to a hospital already overwhelmed with patients. Minor tends to Chungyeong and reassures her that the younger siblings are safe but not yet awake. This is one of the symptoms people face after running into merman, but hopefully doctors will find a cure soon. As Minor tries to call Hyunsoo in vain, she wonders why the children are in a coma when they never took any damage from the merman. Ha Yurak of the Red Lions receives a report on the damages and casualties caused by the merman attack. She then tries to call Hyunsoo, who doesn't pick up her call either. Meanwhile, in a cafe in another part of the city, 2 S-rank hunters, Haxon Baldur, leader of the experienced Shadow Guild, and the individual hunter Jill Lauderman, discuss Hyunsoo's admission into the Red Lion. Hyunsoo wakes up from a dream of a pleasant beach trip, interrupted by the serpent monster, only to be informed that he had been sleeping for 2.5 days. He immediately calls Lee Minor at the association and a Yurak at the Red Lions Guild to notify them about having already eaten the elixir. He then goes through his skills window to learn, much to his pleasure, that he has not only leveled up, but has also gained a new ability that lets him copy his master's techniques once a day. Later, Hyunsoo visits Chungyeong at the hospital, who is distressed about the fact that her siblings still haven't woken up. He tries to console her and takes her to see his younger brother, who's been comatose ever since he was in the accident. Holding his hand, Yeon talks to the unconscious boy about his older brother and wishes he would wake up soon. The old master informs Hyunsoo that he feels a strange energy from his brother. There's some sort of curse seal on his heart, but there is a way around it. Meanwhile, a weapon called the skeleton spear is being sold at auction for 70 million won. At the end, a man named Jin Si-hyuk wins the auction. The man who had been competing with him, Choi Jae-hyuk, accosts him in the parking lot, inquiring why he bid 200 million for something worth 70 million. When Si-hyuk mocks him, Jae-hyuk blows up his car, so Si-hyuk uncovers the skeleton spear, ready to counterattack. Behind his back, Jae-hyuk readies his own weapon, and when Si-hyuk comes charging at him with the spear, he lands a powerful punch with the metal gloves right on Si-hyuk's face. Jae-hyuk then warns the other man that no one has been able to walk out of an auction alive after they won a bid against him. Choi Jae-hyuk gets berated by Yurak for causing a commotion at the auction. She warns him not to make trouble for her again before telling him to get out of her office. At the hospital, Hyunsoo takes his leave from Chungyeong before going back to visit his brother. There, his master explains to him that the way to help his brother involves something called the severing heavenly language, which he is unable to use at the moment. It's a mystical technique that's a type of sorcery invented by one of the heavenly demons. But Hyunsoo wouldn't be able to use it because he doesn't have the heavenly demon body. Park Hyunsoo reminds the old master about now being able to copy one of his techniques once a day, and he is positive he can perform the severing heavenly language as well. He immediately holds out his hand in front of his brother and calls out the technique. Rings of blue and runic language spread around him as the spell appeared to be working. He pushes more chi into the process, but it backfires, throwing him away from the bed. When Hyunsoo wonders why it didn't work, the old man informs him that he senses the power of an incredibly strong existence, and he doesn't yet possess sufficient power to counteract it. Meanwhile, somewhere else, two S-rank hunters argue over Hyunsoo before being interrupted by a man named Yamamoto Takeshi, another S-rank hunter and the vice guild leader of the ES Guild. Guild Lordman asks him about the fragment, to which he replies that it wasn't the one. The two believe that the appearance of Park Hyunsoo might pull forward a fragmented expedition for the Red Lions as well. Jill talks about how the portals spread all over the world are Paradise's fragments, the ancestral dragon, and having to take care of all of the fragments within a year is like being cursed. But if the fragments aren't taken care of in a year, then the world will face a disaster that even S ranks can't handle. At the hospital, Hyunsoo visits Chaeyoung's younger siblings, where his master informs him that cold energy is the cause of their and everyone else's comas. Things that live in the water fundamentally carry in energy, and those merman monsters possessed especially strong yin energy, which is why those with high yin energy in their bodies naturally can't take it when both their yin energy and the merman's energy meet and turn into cold energy. It's like they go into a state of hibernation. To treat them, yang energy is needed to purge out the yin energy. Hyunsoo then puts his hand on one of the siblings' chests and does something that pushes out black smoke like yin energy from the boy's body. His master then orders him to immediately burn the yin energy. Hyunsoo attempts to absorb the yin energy from the boy's body, despite the old master's warning him against that. As soon as he manages to absorb the energy completely, his body starts to change into a harmonious yin and yang body. The old master is shocked to notice him reach the three flowers peak bloom for a short moment while in a trance. As soon as Hyunsoo is done, the boy wakes up from his coma. Hyunsoo then performs the same process on the girl, who wakes up as well, much to everyone's joy and surprise. Lee Minor is informed about the increasing number of comatose patients in the hospital and decides to ask the branch manager to increase the number of hospital beds and medical personnel. At that moment, both she and the Yurak received a call, delivering them news about Hyunsoo, providing a miraculous cure to the comatose patients. As he does this, the level of his harmonious yin and yang body increases. As Hyunsoo is treating another patient, Hayurak calls to inform him that the association has requested his help at their hospital as well, although with a considerable fee. Later that night, the S-rank hunter Huxon Baldur receives a call telling him the whereabouts of Hyunsoo. He quickly leaves the house and, using a special ability, speeds through the city. Hyunsoo is at home when he receives a warning call from a Yurak telling him to get out of his house. Hyunsoo rushes out into the street just as something drops from the sky with an incredible force. The smoke clears to reveal Haksen Boulder, who's ready to strike. He gathers a ball of energy in his hand and sends it flying towards Hyunsoo. There's a red alert at the association about an unidentified living organism in the area where Hyunsoo lives. Supersonic speed is rare, even among S-ranks. Thus, both Lee Min-ah and Hayurak reach the conclusion that it must be Haksen. Hayurak, believing herself to be the only one capable of stopping him, prepares to leave. Lee Minor is about to take off as well, but the branch manager stops her. He informs her that the association has already asked the Azure Dragon team to start preparing for the use of the divine item Mirror World. A group of motorcyclists, the Azure Dragon team, rush through the city towards the scene of the fight, after confirming the presence of Mirror World with a team member called Hawk. He jumps off a high-rise building and literally transforms into a hawk before taking off into the sky. Meanwhile, Haksen is surprised to see that Hyunsoo has not only obtained the yin energy, but has also achieved the revolutionary realm, while Hyunsoo's master senses a power from Haksen that is much stronger than Hayurak's. He has achieved at least the supreme peak realm where he came from. Hyunsoo asks Haksen why he attacked him out of nowhere, but he is too busy being surprised that an A-rank fended off his attack. Hyunsoo attempts to clear the surroundings of passers-by and bystanders before his attention is pulled back to the fight. He uses the flower arts technique to block Haksen's attack, who had only used it as a distraction to come up behind him and attack using body transmutation. His arm transforms into metal before he launches a supersonic Match 3 punch at Hyunsoo. Hyunsoo gets blown away in his attempt to block the punch, surprised at not being able to do anything even after gathering his internal energy. Haksen follows him and starts to throw another supersonic Mach 3 punch when the old master reminds Hyunsoo of the Heavenly Demon footwork. He uses the second technique and the Heavenly Demon flight to attack Haksen mid-strike, but instead gets blown away himself. Meanwhile, Hayurak flies through the city, hoping the fight hasn't begun yet. Haksen approaches Hyunsoo's prone form, as the old master acknowledges his incredible strength. However, he believes Hyunsoo needs to overcome this trial to be able to grow as a heavenly demon. Haksen prepares to throw another supersonic punch, but Hyunsoo wakes up just in time. He gathers energy and uses the seed impact to launch a powerful punch at Haksen. Haksen gets thrown away a bit from the impact of Hyunsoo's attack, and his metal arm suffers damage, much to his surprise. However, he quickly reinforces it using a steel pulse due to his recovery rate being at the level of demon monsters. The old master advises Hyunsoo to use wood impact to destroy the insides of his body without letting him catch a break. Hyunsoo thus throws a wooden impact at Haksen, but he disappears in a burst of water only to reappear right below him. Hyunsoo barely manages to dodge his attack and move away, but Haksen is quick to follow and stands over him with a blade extending from his metal arm, ready to kill him. Hyunsoo uses a leaf impact to strike this time, and manages to produce a gash in the other man's side. As Haksen immediately starts to recover, Hyunsoo leads him towards an empty school to better be able to land attacks without worrying about citizen. Haksen heals himself partially using a steel pulse before following Hyunsoo. Their fight continues at the school, and Hyunsoo continues to get hit. Haksen then gathers a huge purple ball of energy before launching it at Hyunsoo as a finishing attack, causing a huge explosion. Just as Haksen starts to retreat, Hyunsoo stands back up, undefeated. Haksen gets ready to launch another purple energy ball at him, but it suddenly disappears midway. Believing his body to still be functional, Haksen throws a normal punch using his metal arm, but Hyunsoo dodges and counters with a much more powerful punch. Hyunsoo uses seed impact, the force of which sends Haksen flying away. 12 days ago, inside the portal, Hyunsoo practiced his punches and kicks, but was not as strong as he'd expected to be after obtaining both the seed of the heavenly demon and the internal energy of the Imuji. It was like he had a well of energy, but he was not strong enough to fetch it more than 10 times. The only thing that would help him get stronger in that situation was by winning against a stronger opponent in a real fight. And he's facing him right now, his first strong opponent. Haksen gets back up then, his whole body now covered in steel. His energy bullets are not ready yet, but he is still capable of close combat, so he charges at Hyunsoo with match 5. Before Hyunsoo can react, Hoxin is upon him, and the force of his impact sends Hyunsoo flying off. Hoxin is ready to catch him with the blades on his arms, so the Old Master advises Hyunsoo to use the Heavenly Demon Soul Shed. While practicing, Hyunsoo thought this technique was too difficult. But the Old Master had told him to think of it this way: take one step backward and allow your consciousness to pass through from that spot. In the present, Hyunsoo attempts the technique and, with its help, manages to not only move out of the way of Hoxin's blades, but also counterattack using a wood impact right on Hoxin's body. After the smoke clears from the explosion, Hyunsoo is surprised to see that Hoxin's body is still intact, and before he can react, Hoxin has already struck. On a battlefield, men lie dead and injured. Only the heavenly demon stands against the demon, promising to take it down for the sake of his subordinates. The demon offers him to be his right-hand man, but he refuses, confident in his ability to borrow power from nature to use martial arts in the absence of his internal energy. He launches himself at the demon using the skill Heavenly Spiritual Body. In the present world, citizens look on in fear as the whole school gets blown to bits. The Azure Dragon team arrives on site and proceeds with caution. They expect Hyunsoo to already be dead, but are surprised to find him alive and locked in a fistfight with Hoxin. When Hyunsoo repeats his question of why Hoxin suddenly attacked him, he refuses to answer and suddenly launches into the air, his energy recovering. He immediately fires an energy beam down at Hyunsoo, whom the Old Master has to carry out of the way to save him from getting killed. The attack manages to graze his side a bit, and Hyunsoo lies exhausted and burned out. His master urges him to get up as Hyunsoo sees an image of his past self flow towards him. Meanwhile, Lee Minor orders the Azure team to intercept before Hyunsoo dies, but they feel hesitant after observing Hoxin's power. At that moment, Hyunsoo gets back up. His master is ready to interfere in the fight and help him, but Hyunsoo reminds him of his ability to imitate one of his skills once a day. He charges at Hoxin using the Heavenly Spiritual Body, something the Old Master never taught him. Hoxin fires an energy beam, and Hyunsoo counters with one of his own. But suddenly, the mirror world is thrown between them, absorbing both of their energies before promptly breaking apart. At that moment, Hayurak finally reaches the scene, ready to take on Hoxin alone. But then Jill Lordman and Yamamoto Takshi arrive. 1 week ago, at the Portal Strategy Committee, it was decided that the guild that possesses S-rank hunters in each country will be in charge of taking care of the Paradise, the portal that was spread by the ancestral dragon. In case portals appeared in countries that didn't have any S-rank hunters, they'd choose the guild that'd go on the expedition according to the situation. Hoxin was against this decision, choosing to work alone, despite Hayurak's advice to work together. Presently, citizens evacuate the area near the school as 4 of the superhuman S ranks in the world gather. Takashi apologizes to Hayurak for Hoxin's actions, and Hyunsoo recognizes the 2 new hunters, Takashi at number 8 and Jill at number 9 in the world, which finally leads him to the conclusion that Hoxin is the German hunter ranked number 2 in the world. Takshi implores Hayurak to overlook the matter and promises to pay for the damages, but Hyunsoo is not ready to forgive Hoxin for his actions, so Jill introduces himself and explains their peaceful stance, while Takashi personally apologizes to him. Hyunsoo is still not ready to let it go, but Hayurak holds him back. The S-ranks all leave after bidding him goodbye, and Hayurak finally has time to appreciate Hyunsoo being able to fight on par with Hoxin when she was only hoping for him not to die. After a brief checkup at the hospital, Hyunsoo discharges himself and heads home via the subway. He is expecting a mess of the place, but when he reaches it, it's all as it used to be, without any of the damages he inflicted in his fight. Lee Minor greets him there, and thanks him for his efforts, having led a team from the association that specializes in restoration. In a mansion somewhere else, a man on a throne informs his subordinate of how the king is unhappy because the Merman portal plan went sideways. The white-haired subordinate assures him that the fragment in the western sea of Korea would be enough to defeat the hunters, and the parallel plan is progressing at 72%. A man watches the news as they mention Hoxin's attack on Hyunsoo and a school. He vows to defeat Hyunsoo, wondering how his knight Nim will look at him if he does. Hyunsoo and his master have delicious food at home before he arrives at the guild for his first official expedition. He is introduced to Hunter Sunmai Ungjin, the steel god of death, soon after he walks in, who bids him good luck for his first expedition to the Fragment of Paradise. Hyunsoo bows and shames his hand with another famous hunter, Seo Junsung, at which point his master berates him, telling him he's the successor to the heavenly demon and hence should not lower his head to anyone. Hyunsoo then arrives at a Yurak's office, where she asks him if he'd still like to work with her, since he's definitely an S rank now. Hyunsoo agrees to stay on, so her Yurak tells him to go put on his armor for the expedition, while she readies her soldiers because the time to subjugate the Fragment of Paradise has finally come. Her Yurak rallies her soldiers, giving them an uplifting pep talk before leading them towards the fragments. Meanwhile, a white-haired subordinate updates Knight Nim about the Red Lions Guild reaching the Western Sea. With an S rank and 30 A ranks, Knight believes they should keep their guard up against them. Regardless, he intends the day to be the last for the Red Lions and the country of Korea. On a ship in the Western Sea, Sunmai Ungjin informs Hyunsoo about the previous two-part expedition to Paradise. The first was a failure where everyone except the S rank died, and although the second was a success, more than 20 people died and the majority of the squad was severely injured. People go into Paradise and die after experiencing it. That's how it got its name, Paradise. Their squad then passes through the portal and into a desert land. The old master expresses that the place is too vast to be an illusion, then explains that when he was young, he almost died because of the price he had to pay for the illusion known as the Heavenly Guardian, a mystical dimension technique. If this is an illusion, then they need to find the thing deploying it and destroy it. One of the soldiers, the man who plans to go after Hyunsoo, finds a random diamond lying around, and when he goes to take it, a monster jumps out at him from under the sand. He dodges and blocks its attacks and punches it using Rockbreaker. He manages to kill it, but another, bigger monster immediately shows up. The man uses his shields, but gets thrown away by the monster. Just as he assumes he's done for, Hyunsoo pierces through the monster and destroys it using Seed Impact. Hyunsoo destroys the monster, much to the other man's shock. Her Yurak flies over the desert land and sees of the portal, wondering if there's another portal within this one. She uses her technique Inferno Night to check if there's something under the sea. It causes a huge explosion that splits the water, allowing her to see red-eyed beings within. In the forests, Sunmai Ungjin and his men are being ravaged by monsters, but they refuse to give up. The monsters, however, surround them, landing critical hits on the brave men. Myungjin, too, gets attacked by a horde of monsters while blocking an attack. One of his comrades powers through the monsters and attempts to save him. The white-haired subordinate and her master look on from a safe distance as he asks her about Hyunsoo. She tells him he's been matched with one of the strongest monsters, the Sorcerer King Anthropy, and he won't be able to take it on alone. Meanwhile, in the desert, Hyunsoo recognizes the man he saved as Aegis Guild leader Shwa Jahyuk. His master asks him to slap the annoying man so he'll shut up, but Hyunsoo refuses. As he talks to him, Jahyuk wonders if his ability to listen to instructions is actually true. If it is, he wonders whose instructions he's listening to, as his fighting style feels like an unrealistic martial art. Jahyuk thinks it might be a ghost, just as Hyunsoo notices something in the desert. It's a portal within a portal. The association stands outside the Fragment of Paradise portal, ready to assist the Red Lions and Aegis Guild if needed. One of the men informs Lee Minor that Anderson's intensity is 24 at the moment. If it reaches 100, a portal impact would occur. Minor prays for Hyunsoo's safety as he wonders if he should go into the second portal. Jahyuk goes in first, and his master tells him to let him be, but Hyunsoo has to follow. He emerges on the side of a castle wall and has to employ the heavenly demon flight to get on top of it. He then helps Choi Jahyuk, who had been hanging from the wall, and looks around to find a civilization within the portal. Jahyuk goes on towards the city, so that Hyunsoo can enter the castle from the opposite side. Before leaving, he hands Hyunsoo a signal flare for wireless communication. Inside the clock tower of the castle, a skeleton king moves. The white-haired subordinate tonight observes that all the A-rank hunters of the Red Lions have been annihilated, while Hyunsoo is approaching Anthropy's ancient castle, and Hayurak is fighting a battle in Obel's Sea. Hayurak uses her technique, Mephisto Fire, to send all the fish monsters burning into the ocean, but more soon arrive, leading her to use the Fire Fist. To prevent this attack, the monsters band together to form one huge monster that towers over Hayurak. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk continues on an endless walk, looking for a way down into the city. He eventually decides to head down the side of the wall. Sliding down, Jae-hyuk finds a ruined neighborhood, where he calls on his powers to lead him to where precious things are. The ball of light in his hand shoots into the distance, and Jae-hyuk follows it, expecting to find something as good as Rockbreaker. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo's master feels something alien and gigantic on top of the castle wall before an explosion reveals the Skeleton King, Anthropy, who asks if they're trying to enter the Gate of Light. The Skeleton King invites Hyunsoo into his castle to ask if they came here via the Gate of Light. The old master tells him they came via a portal, which reveals the fact that the king is able to see him. Being hospitable, the Skeleton King then snaps his fingers and conjures tea for them, and when the master asks if he's the king, the Skeleton King reveals he's not sure since his memories are vague. The master then asks how the place came to be a ruin, and the Skeleton King tells them that the country was originally one that everyone was envious of, but the Gates of Light suddenly started to appear one day, and all sorts of monsters came out of them. He used all the magic he had at that time to destroy all of them. Meanwhile, a huge, winged, one-horned monster goes after the already beaten and injured hunters. The white-haired subordinate informs his master, Knight, that Gulag is awake, and when he asks what he should do next, Knight tells him to overlap them. As a result, while Hayurak is fighting a monster over the sea, a portal suddenly opens up in front of her that leads directly to Gulag. The Skeleton King informs Hyunsoo that despite using everything he had, he wasn't able to defeat all the monsters, and the next thing he knew, he had woken up like this, upset over the fate of his people. The Skeleton King asks Hyunsoo to kill him. Hayurak correctly realizes that two portals have been overlapped as Gulag pushes itself out of the water to face her. Knight and his subordinate eagerly wait for the result of the fight that will inevitably happen. Hayurak, incensed, pushes herself into Firebird mode as both Gulag and the sea monster charge towards her. Gulag fires an energy beam at Hayurak, which she dodges and instead attacks the sea monster. Once it's taken care of, she advances towards Gulag. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo and his master refuse to kill Anthropy, advising him to commit suicide, so he bashes his own head in with its scepter. Instead of dying, his head revives itself as he tells them he's tried to commit suicide many times before. He doesn't even remember what kind of curse he has anymore. The old master then agrees to kill the Skeleton King, although with a condition. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk follows the ball of light to a door that he immediately destroys. It leads him into an ancient building that is lined with stone gargoyles. To his surprise, they suddenly came alive. Hyunsoo's master puts forward his condition. If he wants them to kill him, the Skeleton King has to tell them how to get out of the place since the portal they came from is now closed. Unfortunately, the Skeleton King would have gotten out himself if he knew the way out. But he can't help them with something else. He leads them up some stairs towards a door that he opens with the power of his mana. It's an energy that's different from the kind of chi that the old master uses. He then shows them a marble called Anthropy. It's something that nothing in the world can compare to. Hyunsoo is asked to place his hand on top of it so it can show him what he desires. But as soon as he does, wispy souls appear from it, and Hyunsoo feels like he's being sucked in and is unable to move away. The skeleton reveals that he was lying just so that he could get out. After a long time of research, he has found a way to recreate the Gate of Light, but he doesn't have enough energy. Previously, he defeated the monsters by absorbing all the souls of his people, and now he intends to absorb Hyunsoo's energy to create a portal. Having found out everything he wanted to know, the master tells Hyunsoo to calm down and perform the heavenly demon dominating stride, which immediately causes an explosion. When the smoke from the explosion clears, Hyunsoo has detached himself from Anthropy, and the Skeleton King is kneeling on the floor in front of him. As he gets up to attack, Hyunsoo quickly performs the technique Tree Impact, which breaks his skull. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk fends off gargoyle-turned monsters. He tries to hold them off, but there are too many of them. He turns tail and retreats, but triggers a booby trap on his way and falls down a hole with deadly spikes. Barely managing to catch himself on the walls, he pulls himself back up and finds a huge crystal that he immediately attempts to break. The Skeleton King soon revives itself after Hyunsoo's attack and retaliates with a technique that Hyunsoo dodges using heavenly demon materialization. When the old master mocks him, the Skeleton King throws a ball of energy at Hyunsoo. As he evades the attack, Hyunsoo uses Seed Impact to break the surrounding pillars in the building to bring down the roof on top of his opponent. Jae-hyuk breaks the bigger crystal to reveal a smaller one that he picks up in order to absorb it. He feels a power stronger than A rank emanating from the crystal, just as the Skeleton King feels someone touching his life vessel. Hyunsoo then uses the heavenly spiritual body and lunges at him. The power of the crystal overwhelms Jae-hyuk and burns off his gloves and clothes, while, on the other hand, Hyunsoo strikes at the Skeleton King, managing to defeat him only because of the crystal. The king's death releases all the souls he absorbed, and they swirl around Hyunsoo, finally able to escape. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk, having absorbed all the energy of the crystal, is now stronger than he ever was, and thus goes back to the monsters he left behind. Radiating strength, he releases one powerful energy beam that kills all the monsters instantly. Despite fearing he would not be able to come back, Hyunsoo puts his hands on the marble ball and gets sucked inside, with his master falling in behind him. They witness a happy town that is suddenly ravaged by monsters after multiple portals or gates of light open up all across the place. The king's soldiers try to fight, but in vain, so the king, riding in on a dragon above the city, tells them to retreat and leave everything to him. He uses a magical technique that immediately takes care of all the monsters. The king is exhausted and drained from his fight with the monsters, and at this rate, he fears he might end up getting annihilated. But he's the only one with the strength to fend off the monsters, so it can be said that he's the country itself. Without him, it would not survive. The only way left, he surmises, is necromancy, a sorcery that will allow him to gather the souls of humans and obtain an enormous amount of power. As he is conflicted over his decision, a messenger comes to inform him of the appearance of another gate within the city. The king is feeling so unbalanced that he kills his messenger in a fit of pique. He then performs a ritual that will gather the souls of all the people of his city into time for eternity and grant him an incredible amount of power. The citizens across town immediately drop dead as he calls their souls to them and absorbs every last one of them, getting stronger with each one. The king then ventures into the city to face the monster. He releases a huge ball of energy and throws it at the dragon, blowing it up. Hyunsoo becomes conscious of his presence among all the tortured souls the king absorbed, feeling their pain and tragedy. His master tells him to endure it, but he goes into a daze, and when he emerges at the voice of one of the souls, he notices that his master has disappeared. In front of him, on a throne, sits the soul of the king, congratulating him on making it here. The soul of the king places his hand on top of Hyunsoo's head, which revives his energy. He suddenly finds himself in the middle of a town square, with the Skeleton King himself sitting on a throne. The king tells Hyunsoo he had been waiting for a strong person to arrive for 3,024 years. When Hyunsoo asks, the king reveals that he and the skeleton are one and the same in one way, but different in another. He further explains that the moment he used necromancy, he abandoned his evil side and got sucked into the inside of the Anthropy marble. This was where he pulled himself together and created a world in another dimension. He was able to save some of the souls that Anthropy absorbed and help them live here. They have been living the same life every day, but they aren't in any pain. To his surprise, the king then expresses his fascination with Hyunsoo's unique ability to listen to instructions. But when he feels offended, the king tells him not to waste time, as this is the exact ability that is needed here. The king's evil self has kept the source of the lives separate within their body in order to live a life that's close to an eternal one. but Hyunsoo and Jae-hyuk took over the life vessel. Jae-hyuk has now become another incarnation of evil and has been looking for Hyunsoo with the intention of killing him. After understanding the situation, Hyunsoo immediately gets ready to leave, using his ability to listen to other people. Meanwhile, on the ships outside the portal, the association notes that the Anderson intensity has gone up to 63, forced to stand there and wait. Lee Minor prays for Hyunsoo and Hae-yurak. Hae-yurak charges at Gulag using Firebird, Inferno Knight, an attack that she puts all her strength into. Her attack and Gulag's defense cause an explosion that leaves Gulag unharmed, much to Hae-yurak's distress. On the other hand, the king tells Hyunsoo that he used up all his strength to establish this world, so Hyunsoo will have to learn how to use mana in order to release the people of the city. When Hyunsoo questions the king about mana, the king explains to him that if the chi he's using is the refined energy of nature, then he could think of mana as the pure raw energy of nature. The king tells him to absorb the mana around him, which Hyunsoo adeptly accomplishes in the next minute, surprising the king. He then tells him to take control of every soul that's within this body by giving them back the pain that he feels. At that moment, Jae-hyuk approaches him, and upon finding him unresponsive, he gleefully throws an energy ball his way. Because of the mana he absorbed, Hyunsoo's heart feels as if it's about to explode. The king then tells him to put mana into every word he says and spell the incantation disappear. Hyunsoo follows instructions, and the vengeful spirits begin to disappear. The king appears in front of the old master and sings Hyunsoo's praises to him. At that moment, just as Jae-hyuk releases a ball of energy towards him, Hyunsoo wakes up. Jae-hyuk is ready to strike again, but before he can act, Hyunsoo moves with such speed that Jae-hyuk is unable to see him and punches him right in the stomach. Surprised at being bested, Jae-hyuk is sent flying out of the building, and Hyunsoo follows. Jae-hyuk tries to retaliate with a level of power that Hyunsoo can feel just as he throws his own punch. The two attacks collide, but Hyunsoo's is stronger, giving him the chance to continue striking from all sides. With Hyunsoo's next punch, Jae-hyuk is thrown to the ground. He tries to get back up, but Hyunsoo follows up with another quick strike. As Jae-hyuk is thrown away, Hyunsoo expresses to his master that he feels overflowing with energy. The power of the mana taught by the Sorcerer King must have formed a synergy with his internal energy. At this rate, he thinks he can win even against Hakusen. His master is impressed and compliments him, but soon after, the mana starts to flow out of his body. It appears that mana is not something that he can store and use for a long time, like chi. At that moment, an explosion generated from inside a portal that opened above them shook the ground they were standing on. There, Hyunsoo is surprised to see Hae-yurak in battle with Gulag. The white-haired subordinate informs his master, Knight, that the Sorcerer King lost and Hyunsoo escaped from Anthropy. This means that if Gulag loses, this place could be attacked, even though they tried so hard to avoid him. Knight eventually decides to step in himself to nip the problem in the bud. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo feels the ground shake another time as another portal opens above them, with many portals trying to come together in one place. The white-haired subordinate suddenly appears behind Hyunsoo, informing him he's disrupted too many of Night Nim's plans. As the master senses bloodlust from the girl, she conjures up deadly spikes at his feet, which Hyunsoo avoids using after image. He begins to use mana against the girl and charges at her, performing his technique of seed impact, but she manages to dodge it. Hyunsoo then uses Heavenly Demon Flight to attack her from the air, but the girl conjures up spikes in his way. He destroys them and comes after her using Tree Impact. It causes an explosion behind her that catches her off guard, and she falls behind, right into the arms of her knight, Nim. Hyunsoo asks him who he is, but Knight refuses to answer and lunges at him with great speed. Hyunsoo manages to block his punch, but he can feel the incredible power behind it. As Hyunsoo is pushed back, the girl conjures up spikes behind him that he falls right into. Hae-yurak releases her Firebird mode. Most of the S ranks have techniques that they can use in exchange for their own lives. These are techniques that use their lives as collateral. So, in this tough battle where she has sworn to destroy her enemy for the sake of her fallen soldiers, Hae-yurak uses one such technique with all her might. Outside the portal, the Anderson intensity rises to 85 and keeps soaring. A distressed Lee Minor receives a call where the branch manager informs her that someone has been sent to help them. Right at that moment, Huxon lands on her ship. Huxon leaves to help the Red Lions because of his goal to protect people. Much to the surprise of Jill Lauderman, he and Yamamoto Tagshi decide to follow him. On the ship outside the portal, Lee Minor informs Huxon about the ongoing situation. With the Anderson intensity having reached 89, portal impact is expected in 30 minutes. Jill Lauderman and Yamamoto Tagshi arrive soon after, and when Mina informs them that Hyunsoo is already inside the portal, Huxon is assured that there is nothing to worry about since he has something more than just abilities. Meanwhile, Hayurak completes her manifestation of the plasma sword and swings it at Gulag, just as he simultaneously releases powerful energy beams. The old master watching her from afar recognizes she's using an ultimate move and is impressed she's able to handle such firepower. Hyunsoo stumbles around, beaten up and exhausted from his fight against Knight and his subordinate. He is only able to survive thanks to gathering mana and chi together and increasing his defense power simultaneously. When Knight comes back to attack, his master tells him to go with the yin-yang demon. However, Knight slips through his technique and turns around with an unreadable attack. Hyunsoo manages to dodge it and retaliates with a leaf impact. Knight jumps out of its way, but it still gets him in the side. Continuously releasing energy, Hayurak charges at Gulag with her plasma sword held aloft, ignoring her dropping vital signs. As she nears the monster, it releases a powerful beam of energy that causes a huge explosion. Hayurak ends up falling out of the sky, half conscious and with her hair turning black, wondering if this is the end. In a flashback, she remembers her captain, who used to help her out in her fights against monsters. He had asked her to take care of his son, Jahyuk, in case anything ever happened to him. Hayurak is now afraid she will not be able to keep her promise. Meanwhile, the portal with Gulag starts overlapping with the portal that Hyunsoo and Knight are fighting in, and water gathers in the building below them. Knight then cuts up a hole in the portal and retreats, but not before warning Hyunsoo that if he manages to survive today and they ever meet again, he will appear to Hyunsoo in his original form and defeat him. As soon as he leaves, Hyunsoo coughs up blood due to his injuries, but his master tells him to pull himself together and points Hyunsoo to a sword knight left behind. Upon his master's instructions, Hyunsoo swings Knight's sword in the same way he did, using his own internal energy, but unfortunately it doesn't work. He tries to use mana next, but the water suddenly rises all around him, bursting over the walls. Hanging off, Hyunsoo swings the sword again, and a hole appears in the portal, which he immediately jumps into. They land in a desert similar to the one they initially came into, and they look up to see the previous portal completely merge with the one Hayurak was fighting in. Worried about Hayurak still being in the flooded portal, Hyunsoo slashes the knight's sword in the air again to make another portal. Meanwhile, the knight and his subordinate appear inside a castle. The girl is surprised to see her master refuse to transform despite having taken on a lot of damage. She wonders if it means his promise to the king is that important to him. The knight's wounds are then cleaned and bandaged by servants as he wonders about Hyunsoo and how much power he possessed. As a butler hands him a healing potion, he informs Knight that there has been no contact from the king, but Rook wanted him to know that if his plan goes awry, he will be punished by death. This angers Knight, who calls on the girl and orders her to set their plan in motion to find the singularity before Rook. He then asks her to tell Pawn to do it for them. Inside the flooded portal, a long-haired, blonde girl expresses how much she enjoyed watching Hyunsoo's fight with Knight, who couldn't see the singularity that was present right in front of him. She is thinking about how she would like to see Knight go downhill when a servant appears, addressing her as Bishop. He informs her that he found Shai Jaehyuk and presents him to her, although dead. Bishop thinks he could still be useful since he devoured the life vessel and, hence, asks her servant to bring him along with them. As she exits the flooded portal through another one that her servant creates, she is sure Park Hyunsoo can find the oasis. Hyunsoo finds himself in the desert portal again, so he tries once again with the sword to create a portal back to the flooded one. At the same time, news about a potential portal impact circulates across the country. Chungyeong sits by Hyunsoo's brother's bedside, wishing for him to wake up. When her younger siblings make noise, she leads them out of the room at the exact moment Hoontae's finger moves. Hyunsoo is once again led back to the desert portal and is starting to get frustrated when he comes upon an oasis. He approaches it and finds it weird when he can't see his reflection in the water. Regardless, he dips his hand in and realizes that the water is actually a portal in the form of an oasis. Hyunsoo immediately gets ready to get in and wades into the water. Hyunsoo wakes up in his bed after a good night's sleep. He gets out of bed and walks out of his room to find the rest of his family, his father, mother, and brother, all together in the living room. Later, the family is headed somewhere in their car and decides to take another route when the usual one is jammed with traffic. At that moment, a bright flash of light occurs in the distance, and a huge monster breaks out of the ground underneath them. Their car rocks and eventually falls down the road. Park Hyunsoo wakes up in a hospital and is told about his parents' death. As he grieves over them, Master's voice brings him back to the present, where he meets a white-haired man in a robe. He tells him that it is surprising that a transcendental being is the unexpected variable this time. The man in the robe is surprised to see the old master there with Hyunsoo, since he only summoned one person. The master fires a blast of energy his way, surprising Hyunsoo when it manages to hit the other man. As soon as the master saw him, he knew his attack could reach him. The other man is forced to admit that the master does have the power to destroy him, but only because it's been a year since he's been hurt by humans, and he can't use his power since he's currently building and maintaining this world right now. He then reveals that he was the one who made Hyunsoo fall into a dream of his past, and he can, in fact, read minds as well. That is how he gets the vessel. But currently, nothing is going his way. He had initially wanted to sinib Hayurak, but Hyunsoo was the one who came to the desert. On top of that, there's the Transcendent, the Old Master. Hyunsoo is enraged at the thought of the other man stealing someone's body and charges at him with a punch, but his hand goes right through him. The Master warns Hyunsoo to get away from the man, but it's too late. The mouth of a dragon appears, and the next moment the man has entered Hyunsoo's body. He pushes Hyunsoo's soul out of his own body, delighted at having acquired such an excellent vessel with traces of mana and considerable internal energy. Before he can do anything, however, the master sneaks up behind him and forces him back out of Hyunsoo's body, who is glad to be back. The other man is shocked that the master can interfere with other people's bodies, but the old man himself thinks it's a mystery as to how he can do that. The old master then prepares to attack him, but Hyunsoo holds him back, believing the man could be their only way out. The man in the robe expresses his amusement and frustration with the situation. After ruminating again and again, he managed to calculate that he'd be getting out of here today, but it doesn't seem likely at the moment. He then proceeds to introduce himself as Pavlicion, also known as the Ancestral Dragon. Hyunsoo is shocked to hear that, as a Yurak had informed him, that the Ancestral Dragon was subjugated a year ago. But that's because that's how Pavlicion made it seem, and made them believe it, using soul language on them. He explains that he was being overwhelmed right on the verge of death. So after a lot of calculations in that pressing situation, he spread all the fragments of himself and hid here while waiting for the day someone will find this place. He's running out of time now and will disappear tomorrow. He would take a Yorak's body and turn the world outside into a world of chaos and destruction. That was the ideal situation, but Hyunsoo and his master have messed it all up. When the old master asks why he wanted this world, the Ancestral Dragon explains that his world was utterly devastated, making it hard for man to exist there. Just as he was about to accept the fate of disappearing from existence, they gave him an offer. They are the ones known as kings. He explains that Night was one of their subordinates, and if Hyunsoo were to look at them in their true form, he would be dealt excruciating pain and disappear. In his original form, Night is stronger than the Sorcerer King was before his entire body was separated. Hyunsoo fought both the Sorcerer King and Knight at half their power. What's more, if he meets the king, he'll perish right on the spot without a trace. Pavlicion, or the Ancestral Dragon, learned how to make a portal from the king, and was able to connect a part of his world to Earth. But it wasn't easy because of the humans. That's when he made his plan. The moment the S-ranks thought they'd killed him, he fragmented his portal. At that moment, the place around them starts to shake violently. Pavlishin gets up from his throne, telling them his time is up. He was honored to meet the old master, who properly introduced himself as Chungyeong. The ancestral dragon believes there is a reason why his plan failed, as he tells them to leave via the portal he opened before this world collapses. As Hyunsoo approaches the portal, Pavlishin advises him to breathe in mana on his way out as a gift from him. Hyunsoo breathes in as he steps out of the portal, and immediately his mana grows and then starts to overload. He feels incredible pressure and is unable to open his eyes. He needs to change the mana into internal energy to refine it. Concentrating, Hyunsoo attempts the change, and it instantly works. His body then starts to change in order to adapt to the enormous power. He feels pain and pressure similar to the time when his master unclogged his meridians. Then the feeling goes beyond that, similar to the time when he temporarily achieved a heavenly demon body. Hyunsoo tries his best to overcome it, and at the end, he attains the Three Flowers Peak bloom. Meanwhile, Chungyeong finds himself in front of an invisible entity. Despite being unable to see him, Gyung lands several attacks on him to force him to tell him who he is and why he called him here. But his voice tells him he cannot reveal who he is, and the reason he called him was pure curiosity. When Gyung attempts to attack again, the person gives up and allows him to leave. Hyunsoo's body completes the transformation, and his unique skill levels up along with the yin-yang body. He has also acquired the ability to imitate his master's skills twice a day, in addition to a heavenly demon body. As he lands on the ground, his master shows up behind him, surprised to see him having grown in power. Hyunsoo then suggests looking for Hayurak, and his master advises him to fly around in the sky to do it. He is excited to learn he can fly, so he follows his master's instructions and concentrates his energy on his Yongquan acupoint and releases it, immediately flying off into the sky. The news reports the rise of the Anderson intensity to 90, after which a portal impact is confirmed. The roads are packed with citizens trying to leave the city centre, but there is still hope as numerous S-ranks from around the world have gathered by the portal, including Huxon. Hyunsoo and his master fly inside the flooded portal, looking for Hayurak. All of a sudden, Hyunsoo spots her prone form lying on top of a rock, reducing the amount of energy that's being released from his feet. Hyunsoo attempts to land, but ends up crashing into the water because he is not yet used to his new power. He then approaches Hayurak and is surprised to find her hair turned black, signifying the fact that she had an incredible battle. On the ship outside the portal, Anderson's intensity stops rising at 95. As Takeshi expresses the strangeness of the portal not having exploded yet, it starts to form a whirlpool, indicating that something is coming out. Everyone prepares their weapons, but the one to come is Hyunsoo, carrying Hayurak in his arms. He steps out of the portal, which immediately starts to disappear, making it apparent that Hyunsoo has completed its raid. Lee Minor comes rushing towards Hyunsoo, relieved to see him unharmed. Hyunsoo, however, focuses her attention towards the unconscious Hayurak, who needs immediate medical treatment. As medical personnel come to her aid, Huxon notes that Hyunsoo has gotten stronger. Hyunsoo is surprised and offended to see him there and refuses to answer when Huxon asks him what happened inside the portal. The two men banter amongst themselves, ready to have another go at a fight, but Lee Minor refuses to let them. Huxon then flies off, and Takeshi and Jill follow, offering to come for help whenever Hyunsoo calls. In another country, Rovan Alderman, number 1 S-rank hunter and chairman of the Portal Strategy Committee, becomes aware of Park Hyunsoo. Rovan Alderman's assistant, Sherry, enters the room and informs him about the successful raid the Red Lions recently conducted. Rovan has a big red scar on his chest that he is embarrassed about, but Sherry brushes aside his concerns. 2 years ago, on the day of the fall, their task force team was shown a vision of a great evil that would appear one day. It also showed them 3 singularities that would be fighting against it. Rovan and his assistant believe that Hyunsoo is the second singularity and decide that he must come to them. Rovan plans to go to Korea himself to prevent someone else from making the first move. The 17-year-old first singularity, named Isaac, insists on going with them. Meanwhile, in Korea, citizens protest against the government, believing it to be inactive and relying solely on the Awakened to do their job. In his room, Hyunsoo wonders about the unique back portal that his master came out of, debating whether he should report it to the association. Chungyeong forbids him, since they still need to use it. He then tells Hyunsoo that he's now ready to finally learn the remaining 6 techniques. They use the skies as their foundation, and it would have been pointless to teach them to Hyunsoo when he wasn't ready. Rovan Alderman assures Anderson Walker, an S-rank hunter and the best research chief of the Portal Strategy Committee, that no one else other than him can be trusted with the brains of the Awakened. The experiments Anderson performs on them are still trial products, but Rovan refuses to consult Jill Lauderman, since they are replicas of his technologies, and he'll kick up a fuss if he knows. As Rovan prepares to leave for Korea, he asks Anderson to take care of Isaac, since he only listens to people who are stronger than him, and Sherry alone would not be able to handle him. Isaac, however, suddenly shows up behind them, insisting on being brought along to Korea. Rovan is against it, but Anderson suggests taking him, so he might learn things like etiquette. Rovan eventually agrees. Hyunsoo meditates under his master's instructions. When he opens his eyes, Chungyeong thinks he looks different. He asks Hyunsoo what he thinks a heavenly demon is. Before he can explain it to Hyunsoo, the portal starts to swirl violently, as if someone's right outside. Indeed, Isaac and Rovan are inside his apartment. Robin and Hyunsoo introduce themselves to each other, equally impressed with each other's power. Robin can't actually speak Korean, but is using a translation device made by Anderson that is based on Jill Lauderman's powers. He hands Isaac a device as well, and asks him to introduce himself. Isaac gives a one-word answer that disappoints Robin, but Hyunsoo brushes aside his immaturity. Robin then explains his reason for arriving. As the chairman of the Portal Strategy Committee, he invites Hyunsoo to be a member. Meanwhile, Knight is getting punished by Rook because he disappointed the king. He beats up Knight mercilessly, and at the end of it, he orders him to capture the Singularity if he doesn't want to be killed. Knight's subordinate rushes to his side as soon as Rook leaves. Robin explains the concept of singularity to Hyunsoo before he asks why he thinks Hyunsoo is a singularity. Robin explains that his ability is time interference and reconstitution, which he demonstrates by drinking a glass of water and then refilling it. He tells Hyunsoo that he's seen all of his fights and apologizes when he feels offended. After seeing them, Robin is sure Hyunsoo is a singularity, like Isaac. He then proceeds to plead with Hyunsoo to join the committee and help save humanity. Hyunsoo asks for some time to make a decision so he can consult with his guild leader, Hyurak. Robin understands and prepares to leave. After they've left, Hyunsoo moves towards the covered-up black portal. Chungyeong warns him to wait, and Isaac suddenly comes back in, ready to fight. He charges at Hyunsoo with an energy-filled punch, and Hyunsoo meets him with equal power. Hyunsoo blocks Isaac's punch, much to the teenager's shock, and the impact of it rocks the building. He follows it by slamming Isaac on the ground, knocking him out. Knight is getting patched up and bandaged by his subordinate when Bishop, his older sister, interrupts them. She mocks him and belittles him, forcing Knight to ask her to leave. Bishop, however, gets to the point of why she came to him. She has something to tell him, but will only reveal it on the condition that he fulfill one of her requests in the future, if he succeeds in his mission because of her advice. As soon as Knight agrees to her condition, she tells him that the Dark Spirit has started to move. The Dark Spirit is a small group of Awakened who are opposing the Hunter world, which is centered around the Portal Strategy Committee. Most of the group is made up of normal people because they don't like the changed world, but the Hunters do. Since the Portal Strategy Committee has set up regulations on firearms, the Hunters truly have the ultimate power on Earth. They're basically ruling over humans who don't have the power to resist. Bishop tells Knight that the Dark Spirit has chosen Black Thunder as their official leader and hands him his contact. Black Thunder, or Henry, is one of the higher levels among the A ranks. He's said to be the next generation of S ranks and someone who's turned his back on the Portal Strategy Committee. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo's neighbors complain to him about the destruction caused by his fight with Isaac. Hyunsoo apologizes and promises to compensate for damages before the people finally leave. Hyunsoo wonders if he should buy the whole building since he can't leave because of the portal in his apartment. Young and Hyunsoo are having pizza for lunch when Isaac comes to visit. He's devastated to learn that he lost and demands that they fight again. Robin shows up just in time and orders him to apologize to Hyunsoo before pushing him out of his apartment. Before he leaves himself, Robin informs Hyunsoo that the Portal Strategy Committee has officially registered him as an S-rank hunter. Hyunsoo is excited to learn he's finally an S-rank hunter, but his celebration is cut short when his master calls him inside for training. He then explains to Hyunsoo that the 6 moves in the second half of the Heavenly Demon Mystic Arts are meant to destroy the heavens. A heavenly demon is supposed to be strong enough to face divine entities. Young then demonstrates the first technique from the second half, Cloud-Scattered Heavens. Hyunsoo is overwhelmed by the intense pressure of it, and before he can recover from it, Young performs the second technique, Black Crow Heavens, followed by the third, Falling Heaven. Hyunsoo learns the techniques as they are being performed, carefully observing their incredible movements. Young then changes the static that's created with the falling heavens into electricity and performs the fourth technique, Lightning Heavens. This leads him to creating a huge energy ball and releasing the fifth technique, Exploding Heavens, followed by the sixth technique, Heavenly Spiritual Body. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Hayurak grieves for her fallen guild members before Lee Minor shows up. She tells Hayurak that the loss of her abilities is most probably temporary and informs her that Hyunsoo took care of the fragment. So there's nothing to worry about at the moment. When Hayurak expresses her disappointment about Hyunsoo not showing up to visit her, Minor tells her that there's been no movement from Hyunsoo ever since Robin visited him. Hyunsoo comes out of the Black Portal after hectic training, having successfully achieved Lightning Heavens within a week. It is then that he learns Hayurak has awakened and immediately gets ready to leave. Before that, however, he visits the communal baths and sauna to freshen up, where he meets a few of his admirers. At the hospital, Hayurak is happy and proud to find out Hyunsoo is a singularity when he informs her about Robin's visit. She correctly deduces that he tried to scout him because of this and tells him that Robin left out an important detail. Hunters have opposing views about singularities. Robin believes that singularities should be found, even if that means sacrificing the majority. Armand joined him, and Anderson liked the research environment, so he joined them too. That's how the Portal Strategy Committee got started. On the other hand, Hakusen was of the opinion that they shouldn't rely on singularities and become stronger themselves. Takashi and Jill joined him in creating the ES Guild. China's Qin Lang and America's Alexander each made their own guilds for their own reasons. Hyunsoo then asks Hayurak what she thinks, to which she replies that she has never thought too much about this and has always focused on protecting her comrades with her own hands. But she can no longer do that because she got all her comrades killed. Hyunsoo consoles her, saying this is war, and the losses incurred because of a war are never the leader's fault. Hyunsoo eventually decides to go his own way and become stronger. Hayurak advises him to be careful of the people he met in the fragment, since they are after him because he's a singularity. Inside a warehouse building, Heinrich, or the Black Thunder, and the leader of the guild, Usurp, rally the dark spirits to go against the hunters, hyping them up, using his lightning power. When he leaves the building, he is met by a man wearing a clown costume who seems to know everything about him. Annoyed, Heinrich fires a bolt of lightning his way, but the clown comes out of it unscathed. It is revealed that the clown is actually a knight in disguise, who is present here as an illusion. He offers to form an alliance with Heinrich, providing him the incentive of hefty firepower to help convince him when he refuses. In Paris, a bomb explodes in the middle of a busy street, and dark spirits emerge from the shadows carrying weapons. Hyunsoo's promotion to S-rank is announced on the news and is read to Hyuntae by Chaeyoon. She expects Hyunsoo to be busier from now on, but he shows up right at that moment, grateful that she kept her promise to take care of his brother. Yoon is delighted to see him and informs him that Hyuntae moved his fingers a while ago, indicating that the severing heavenly language was a little effective. Hyunsoo sends Chaeyoung out on an errand and performs the technique again. He puts in all of his effort and is surprised to find that the seal is stronger than last time. Chungyeong informs him that his brother's body might suffer if he continues applying pressure, so he backs up. Hyunta's eyes suddenly pop open, glowing furiously, and he lifts up into the air. Angry at losing to Hyunsoo, Isaac has started training, much to Anderson's delight. Armand, the French number 4 S-rank hunter and vice chair of the Portal Strategy Committee, shows up behind him, complaining that Robin hasn't been picking up his call. Anderson informs him that Robin went into meditation to dig up information on King and his gang. Armand then asks Anderson to open up a portal to Paris. The attack there is too much for the Croix Guild to take on alone, so he wants to go and help protect his homeland. Anderson offers to help, but Armand assures him that he's more than enough. Dark spirits terrorize the citizens of Paris using heavy explosives and firearms. Members of the Croix Guild arrive on time and go up against them, using a barrier that blocks external attacks while allowing them to attack from the inside. Dark spirits counter with a huge rifle, using 400 revolving bullets that takes down the hunters. Armand shows up to help at that moment and levitates the man with the rifle into a wall. The dark spirits fire a volley of bullets at Armand, all of which he blocks using a shield. He uses his power to take down the terrorists in a single attack before helping to put out the fire caused by the explosion. While surveying his surroundings from the air, Armand tries to determine if he took out all of the dark spirits when there's a lightning attack from below that brings him down. Armand is surprised to see Heinrich, but is confident he'll defeat him. As he prepares to attack, a bomb explodes near him that somehow affects his ability to use his powers. Heinrich takes advantage and fires another shot of lightning at him, taking down the S-rank hunter. He is about to deliver the killing blow when Anderson arrives via a portal and descends towards him with an attack that Heinrich manages to dodge. He then releases a burst of red lightning, intending to warn all the hunters in the world. Meanwhile, a voice emanating from Hyuntai's prone form delivers what Chungyeong thinks is a prophecy about a certain evil existence that will destroy the world. Hyunsoo wonders who would borrow his brother's body to tell him that, and his master tells him it's probably the person who put the seal on him in the first place. Young then tells Hyunsoo how he was summoned to an unknown power by a method that is unknown even to him. He didn't see the person but could feel his power. Hyunsoo asks if it could be King, but his master tells him the intentions weren't evil, but he could feel that the person was strong enough to rival him. That unknown person is the only one Chungyeong can think of who can cast a seal so strong that even the severing heavenly language can't break it. Chungyeong didn't tell Hyunsoo about this earlier, because if people knew, they would all fall into despair. No one would be able to stop a person with power that rivals Chungyeong's if they were to suddenly appear, intending to conquer the world. That is probably the level of the king as well, if the ancestral dragon is to be believed. Chungyeong tells Hyunsoo he'll need to work hard to become stronger if he intends to fight against them. Chungyeong enters the room at that moment, and seeing her makes him resolve to get strong enough to protect the people around him. Hyunsoo trains hard with his master after a Yurak informed him about the terrorist attack by the dark spirits in Paris, in which an S-rank fell. When Hyurak expressed that her powers hadn't returned even after 2 weeks, Hyunsoo asked her not to be worried as he is still around. As Hyunsoo proceeds to meditate, Chungyeong wonders whether the person responsible for summoning him to this world is the same as the one who cast a seal on Hyuntai. After training, Hyunsoo receives a call from Lee Minor and immediately leaves for the association, where he is introduced to the branch manager. He tells Hyunsoo that he would like him to become the leader of the special terrorism squad that they are forming in advance for any terrorist attacks that could take place in their county, after the one in Paris where marbles that can neutralize powers were used. Hyunsoo respectfully declines, offering to help as an individual, but not as a leader. He leaves soon after. 2 dark spirits arrive in Seoul using a mysterious item provided to them by Pierrot. They're vandalizing circles on a wall when a policeman approaches, whom one of them immediately kills. They then leave via the portal that forms through the circles, intending to return soon for an attack. Armand and Anderson wonder how the dark spirits got their hands on an item that neutralizes abilities since they don't have access to portals. As little as 10 seconds of the item's use are enough to kill another hunter. Although it is troubling news, Armand believes he can be prepared to face it next time now that he's aware of it. Anderson then tells him he has an idea of what the Dark Spirit's next target could be. Seoul, South Korea, recently saw the birth of another S-rank hunter, Park Hyunsoo, after he cleared the portal fragment that appeared in the area. Their intention is likely to get rid of the S-ranked hunters so that the people may know of their existence. The police are investigating a murder in which they find no fingerprints or traces of the perpetrator. They assume the murderer is an awakened lunatic, just as Lee Minor shows up behind them and confirms this fact. She and the association take over the case from the police before Gaon jumps down from a building to join her. He exchanges observations with the rest of their team, which is stationed at different places. He receives the all-clear from everyone as another team member, Monk Lim, arrives on the scene. He expresses some doubts about the effectiveness of their countermeasures against terrorism, and Lee Minor assures him that there are a total of 5 squads, including them, and they have an incredible person who'll be their control tower. Hyunsoo walks in at that moment, correctly deducing that Armand is their control tower. Gaon is starstruck in the presence of an S-rank hunter and assumes that he is their team leader, but Hyunsoo clarifies that he will only be working individually. Meanwhile, Monk Lim can see the powerful presence of Chungyeong beside him and is in awe, agreeing with the fact that a person with a deity should work individually so that others may not interfere with them. All 4 of them simultaneously receive messages on their watches from Armand. He connects them to Robin, who informs them that the murder case Lee Minor just received from the police was carried out by the Dark Spirits, as they have been scouting the area. They will be charging into Seoul soon, and he will be unable to help, but Armand and Anderson will be available. Explosives go off in the city as the Dark Spirits ambush. Their leader, Henrik, releases lightning to further terrify the citizens. The branch manager of the association expresses his gratitude towards Armand for his help, and assures him that all his squad members have been warned to be on highest alert. Anderson tells him that this would not be of much help, as the S ranks are the only ones with reflexes fast enough to dodge attacks from the neutralizing item. Hence, the A ranks are advised to observe the situation before making their move. As they further talk about Hyunsoo being the only S rank hunter in Korea, they are informed that the Dark Spirits have struck in 2 places, Samseong Station and Dongdaemun. Anderson is shocked to learn that they have changed their strategy and are now moving in teams. The Dark Spirits wreak havoc in the city, shooting at anything and everything, injuring and killing people left and right. In another part of the city, Heinrich attacks people with his lightning as Knight observes from the sidelines, wanting him to continue with the chaos and anger Hyunsoo further. If Henrik hadn't exposed the neutralization crystal, he wouldn't have had to participate at all. Furious at the Dark Spirit's new strategy, Armand decides to counter it in the exact same way as he uses his telekinetic powers to save people from harm without leaving the room. Meanwhile, Anderson relays a message to all squad members not to engage the enemy when they spot them. Armand will take care of the situation and head over to them. He then contacts Hyunsoo, who informs him that he's already at the scene of the attack and facing Heinrich. Before he attacks, Yeong tells him that it's possible the neutralizing marble will not affect him, considering the traits of martial arts, but there's no guarantee. He can only find out once he fights. Tired of waiting, Heinrich launches his first attack at Hyunsoo, which causes an explosion, but to his immense surprise, Hyunsoo completely dodges it and comes up behind him. Before he can react, Hyunsoo delivers a powerful impact punch that sends him flying away. However, he is impressed when Heinrich gets back up soon after. Despite orders from Anderson to stand back and watch all the A-rank hunters and below, one of them, Hyunwoo, charges at the enemy. He tears through several of their men until one of them uses the neutralizing marble that he thought he could avoid. Hyunwoo's abilities immediately disappear for as long as a week before several gunshot wounds from the opponent take him down. Armand shows up behind him, for whom the Dark Spirits have prepared several marbles. But before one of them can attack, Armand has already delivered the killing blow. Somewhere nearby, Lee Minor arrives at the scene of terrorism and faces off against the spirits. Gaon follows her, fighting the enemy despite warnings to stand back. The 2 of them freeze in their tracks when they find a neutralization marble near them, but Armand is there. informing them that he is controlling the marble. Using pressure that's so high it can turn coal into diamonds, Armand eventually disposes of the marble, and all but swings his hand to take out an A-rank dark spirit who is preparing to attack him. Entrusting the cleanup of the vicinity to Lee Minor and Guyun, Armand takes his leave. Meanwhile, Henrik prepares to deliver another lightning attack at Hyunsoo, but he is too slow for the S-ranked hunter, who comes right up close to him and throws a powerful punch followed by a knockout kick. As Knight is disappointed to find that the neutralization marble doesn't work on Hyunsoo, his subordinate tells him it's time for him to appear himself and bring a specific weapon along with him. Heinrich is trying to get back up, but Hyunsoo pushes him back into the ground just as Armand arrives, intending to deal with Heinrich. He is surprised to find Hyunsoo has already taken care of him rather easily. At that moment, a whirlpool forms in the sky above them, making a portal, and out comes the knight in his true beastly form. Armand is further surprised when Hyunsoo recognizes Knight, a member of a group Robin, hasn't been able to find out anything. Armand charges at Knight, but he's too fast for him. He has to put up a shield to defend himself from Knight's sudden attack. Despite the shield, the attack is too strong, and Armand is thrown to the ground, which the Knight follows with a powerful energy beam. He then prepares to face off against Hyunsoo, but Armand gets back up again, determined to not let him get to the singularity. He uses his telekinetic powers to levitate heavy boulders, but Knight fires his energy beams at them. Hyunsoo springs into action, recognizing the Knight's attacks as similar to the Skeleton King's but way stronger. When Knight continues to shoot energy beams, Armand goes into hiding inside a ball of boulders, and his subordinate warns him to refrain from excessive destruction, since King might not be comfortable with it. Hyunsoo then uses the Heavenly Demon Soul Pursuit to catch Knight from behind, and have Tree Impact punch him in the stomach. It has no effect on the beast, and when Hyunsoo follows up with Seed Impact, Knight matches him fist to fist, creating a huge explosion when the two punches interact. Hyunsoo worries about destroying the city due to their fight, while Knight wonders how Hyunsoo survived his punch. He is about to deliver another attack when Armand traps him inside a ball of boulders, warning Hyunsoo that he'll put pressure on him that's able to create a black hole. However, Knight's subordinate jumps into the fight by delivering a sneak attack on Armand. This leaves Knight free to break out of the cage of boulders as Armand faces off against his subordinate with a wounded torso, but is unable to track her strange movements. She then proceeds to open a portal into which Knight and Hyunsoo disappear, much to Armand's surprise. Inside the portal, Knight uses his energy beams to attack Hyunsoo, who dodges with Heavenly Demon Flight, but fails to notice another technique that Knight hides within his initial attack. Anderson observes the situation with the association after Hyunsoo has disappeared inside the portal. One of their squads informs them that they've arrested the remnants of the dark spirits at Samseong Station, and another squad assures them that the situation at Dongdaemun has also been taken care of. Monk Liam and Guyun stand over an unconscious Heinrich, wondering how he's still alive after taking so much damage, before the monk uses a special technique to capture him inside an energy bubble. Lee Minor approaches Armand, who expresses his frustration over how he is unable to follow Hyunsoo into the portal, even after several tries. Inside the portal, Hyunsoo dodges Knight's attack and doubles back to deliver a kick, but Knight is faster as he locks Hyunsoo in his arms and squeezes. After a bit of effort, Hyunsoo manages to break free, using the Heavenly Demon's soul shed and releases an energy ball towards Knight. He quickly follows it up with a powerful punch, but Knight blocks it and takes hold of his arm as he delivers an attack of his own. Hyunsoo dodges once more before using Seed Impact, but it has no effect on his opponent. This leaves him open to a punch from Knight that sends him flying into the buildings around them. Before Hyunsoo can recover from it, Knight is on him again, striking him with another punch. As Hyunsoo crashes into the ground, his master tells him to pull himself together. Knight is on the level of a divine entity for Hyunsoo, and, as Gyeong reminds him, the heaven-obliterating demonic fists are used to kill divine entities. Hyunsoo, however, is afraid Knight is too fast for him, but his master once again reminds him that all his internal energy is useless if he doesn't use it. He has achieved the peak bloom of the 3 flowers twice, which means he's able to bring forth internal energy endlessly. Gyeong then instructs him to gather energy in his energy core and rotate it at a high speed from his Baihui acupoint to his Yongkwon acupoint. That is called acceleration, and it can only work when one is desperate. When Knight charges at Hyunsoo again, he activates acceleration and lunges at him, delivering the technique Cloud Scattered Heavens. Hyunsoo seems completely different to Knight as he follows his last attack with the heaven-obliterating Demonic Fists, second half, second technique, Black Crow Heavens. Knight's subordinate looks on as her master gets beaten up, surprised at the sudden change in Hyunsoo. She dismisses jumping into the fight herself as she will only get in the way, and decides to wait a while more and observe before using the special dagger that she has brought. Hyunsoo's efficiency allows him to dodge all of the Knight's punches and continue throwing his own attacks as Gyeong looks on, impressed and proud. Meanwhile, Rook reports to King that Knight has successfully brought the singularity into their world before King uses the energy of death, overwhelming him with its intense pressure. King then proceeds to dismiss Rook, but as he is leaving, he is asked about Bishop. Rook is unable to give an answer about her whereabouts, so she is sent away. King's face is then revealed to us as he looks out a window. Knight sends a volley of energy beams Hyunsoo's way so that he avoids using the technique Falling Heavens. Surprised, Knight dismisses his original decision to capture Hyunsoo alive and summons a huge energy ball to destroy the whole surrounding area along with Hyunsoo. However, before he can deploy it, Hyunsoo uses the Lightning Heavens technique and follows it up with Exploding Heavens. To his shock, Knight is getting pushed back with the force of Hyunsoo's attack, and before he can do anything to defend himself, Hyunsoo prepares to release the final technique of the heaven-obliterating Demonic Fists second half. Knight's subordinate jumps into the battle with the special dagger, enforcing its technique, Absolute Death. The sheer intensity of it shocks Gyeong, and it freezes up Hyunsoo's body as it reaches him. Hyunsoo, feeling himself slip into unconsciousness, takes action and uses two techniques: the Heavenly Demon Dominating Stride, fifth technique, and the Heavenly Demon Ruler's Descent. Although he can move within the territory of Absolute Death, he finds himself trapped within a barrier that not even the Master in his spiritual form can break through. Suddenly, something shifts in the air inside the shield, and Hyunsoo is transported to a place filled with mounds of corpses. In front of him, he sees a dagger suspended in the air by chain. As he reaches out to touch it, a boy appears behind him, warding him off. Hyunsoo realizes that the boy is the spirit of the dagger, and that he is the only other person who has ever been able to come to this place without dying. Hyunsoo grabs the boy's hand to take him out of this place, but suddenly, everything morphs into smoke, and he finds himself in a prison. An old man tells the boy that he was born to be a demonic weapon, and that he is doing what is best for the world. With his power, the boy is turned into a sword and chained up. Returning to the present, Hyunsoo grabs the chain again, and the boy tells him that the seal was cast upon him by the strongest person in the world. However, Hyunsoo opposes the boy's statement and claims that whoever casts the seal is not the strongest person because he is the disciple of the strongest person. Using an incredible vibration and the pressure from his internal energy, Hyunsoo breaks the chains and offers his hand to the boy to take him out of this place. As the master continues to try to break into the shield, and the knight is confident Hyunsoo has been defeated, Hyunsoo suddenly breaks out of the shield. Knight immediately lunges at him, but Hyunsoo unleashes the explosive power of his mana, and manages to put him down for a moment with just a gentle touch of his palm on the knight's chest. The subordinate then attacks, but Hyunsoo is faster than before and manages to dodge all her attacks, subsequently defeating her. When the knight finally gets up, he recognizes the ring Hyunsoo is wearing. Realizing he is no match for Hyunsoo, he decides to eat the elixir Immortal Transcendent to gain strength that transcends his body limits by 3 times. However, he soon realizes that he won't be able to move for a year due to the after effects of the elixir. Despite his increased strength, the knight is still no match for Hyunsoo, who is not just using his own power, but also that of the ring, which has now turned into an aiding arm. It's the spirit of the boy atoning for the people he killed by giving power to his savior. While the master might think it's overpowered, the knight has been defeated, but Hyunsoo refrains from killing him, as he still has important questions to ask. He wants to know why the portals were made, why they are connected to Earth, and what their final goal is. While they are still inside the portal, with the knight in his human form lying unconscious on the ground, Hyunsoo remembers to introduce Hallie to the master. He calls upon the young boy, who appears out of the ring and bows before the master. Hyunsoo explains that Hallie is the true form of the short sword, which the master recognizes as being death itself. Although the master doesn't think it was a good idea for Hyunsoo to bring Hallie into this world, he decides to intervene and puts his hand on the boy's head. All the scribblings on Hallie's body vanish, but the master acknowledges that he has only erased a very small part of the boy's dark history. Hallie's body has killed as many people as there are grains of sand in a desert, and the master likens what he has done to removing dirt from the boy's skin. Armon and the others stand by the opening of the portal, feeling powerless as they wait for Hyunsoo's return. Just at that moment, Hyunsoo descends from the portal with the knight's unconscious body slung over his shoulder. Armon suggests taking the knight to the Portal Strategy Committee, and Hyunsoo hands over the pink umbrella, the item that controls portals, for research. Noticing Hyunsoo's lack of clothing, Armon provides him with a cloth just before reporters swarm in. Later, at their residence, Master and Hallie tease Hyunsoo about his lack of clothes, and Hyunsoo introduces Hallie to Korean and Japanese cuisine, while Master is craving ramen. While enjoying their food, Chungyeong exhibits a form of telekinesis, which leads Hyunsoo to express his curiosity to the Master about how Armon too can move things without using his hands. Master explains that it's an ability called material shift that creates virtual hands, a skill that Hyunsoo should be able to learn at his level. As they continue to spend time together, Master and Hallie bond, but Hyunsoo worries that he still hasn't found a way to send Master back as he had promised. However, Young doesn't seem to bring it up again either. Meanwhile, in what appears to be a castle, King shapeshifts from an old man to a tall young figure and discusses recent events with another man. They remark on how this is the first time the king has lost something, and acknowledge the mysterious talents possessed by singularities. The king reveals that Hallie has escaped, and the knight has been captured alive, but he is not worried, as he has plenty of others to replace him with. The knight is being tortured, but he refuses to speak. When he finally does, it is to strike a deal, but the person in charge of the torture, Isaac, is a singularity, and it has no effect on him. The knight is shocked to learn that there are already two singularities, but he starts laughing. Surprising Isaac, Knight refuses to believe Isaac is a singularity and laughs off his claim to be one. He further mocks and antagonizes the teenager, saying he's not even at the level of Hyunsoo's minions, let alone Hyunsoo himself. Enraged, Isaac is ready to kill him, but Robin intervenes at the right moment and tells him to leave. Knight tells Robin to let him go, as the rest of his group will soon be coming to rescue him anyway. But Robin shuts down that notion by informing him that he's been abandoned. When Knight yells at him, Robin delivers a lightning shock to him that renders him exhausted and his speech shaky. Robin then explains that he has the ability to see through the countless blueprints of time. He has seen all his possible futures, and there was not one in which the king came to save him. With a burst of laughter, Knight pronounces that Robin is Neymar, and when Robin asks for an explanation, he goes on laughing, agreeing with the fact that the king will not come, and he will do whatever the king wishes. He then proceeds to blow himself up, surprising Robin, who then backs away and uses his ability to turn back time. He comes back with a sword and slices off Knight's head before he can commit suicide once again. Robin had not seen this unpredictable self-destructiveness in Knight's future, and this worries him. Chungyeong finds himself in a familiar place, a battleground from 50 years ago where they fell into the trap of the Murim faction and retreated. As he is wondering why he's here, his late, most cherished disciple among the 10, Kong Xiao, shows up in front of him. He had sacrificed himself for the heavenly demon, who had then avenged his death by pulling out the limbs of the leader of the Murim League, Jin Pei. Xiao tells Chungyeong that they don't have much time, and that he must not hesitate when that day comes. Young is confused and asks for details, but Xiao disappears after saying goodbye. Young wakes up to realize that it had all been a dream. Young has never slept, let alone dreamed, since he was separated from his body, As Hyunsoo and Harley snore away, Young wonders what it was that Seo wanted to tell him. In China, the president is in a meeting where the vice president advises him to do something about the Black Dragon Society, which can control yin and yang at their will when yin and yang determine the balance of the world. However, the president informs them they are unable to do anything since the military and public security were unsuccessful as well. At that moment, a secretary comes in to announce that the Black Dragon Society's Chingguang is on call for the president. He immediately excuses himself to take the call, where he is informed that there will be a portal impact soon on the Tibetan plateau, and is advised to keep this information confidential. Later, the Black Dragon Society's Chingguang leaves for Korea, despite her secretary's warning that there has been a terrorist attack in the country and the trip might be risky. Chingguang brushes aside his concerns, saying the committee confirmed that the attack was suppressed. Meanwhile, inside the Black Portal, Hyunsoo trains in preparation for a fight against King, whose overwhelming presence he feels in Hallie's subconscious. He has to be much stronger than he is to beat such a being. Gyeong compliments his efforts, much to Hyunsoo's surprise and delight. At the association, Chingguang visits the branch manager, who is happy to see her. Chingguang stands third in the S-class rankings and is 77 years old. But she looks like a young woman because of the penalty of her ability that allows her to get younger whenever she uses it. After calling in for coffee, the branch manager asks her the reason for her visit, and she tells him about the portal on the Tibetan plateau. Its concentration has risen to 82, so in light of its danger, the village near it has been evacuated. It's a unique portal where only one person, a man at that, can enter at a time, but not one person who went in has come back out. Chingguang wonders what it would be like if Hyunsoo went in. The branch manager believes that there is no need to send Hyunsoo if it is simply a portal, but Chingguang informs him that the Tibetan Plateau portal will be S-rank. In China, the vice president dines with Chan, who is a pawn and one of the king's subordinates. He informs Shan that the president has no intention of doing anything about Black Dragon, and that there has been a portal on the Tibetan Plateau. The branch manager invites Hyunsoo inside the office to meet Chingguang, but as soon as he enters, he feels a sense of fiery suffocation. Hyunsoo realizes Chingguang was playing around with her powers and touches the branch manager's back to help him breathe. As Hyunsoo takes a seat, Chingguang explains this was her way to determine Hyunsoo was up to the task. They introduce themselves to each other, and King Lan informs Hyunsoo of the penalty for her ability. After Hyunsoo has been brought up to date on the situation and asked to help, he asks why they chose him. King Lan explains it's because he's humanity's last defense against the Annihilation Dragon, a singularity. Also, the portal only allows in one man at a time. If he makes it out alive, she promises to put everything on the line to support Hyunsoo. After he has agreed, King Lan takes her leave, but not before advising Hyunsoo to meet his friends and family, prior to leaving for the S-rank portal. Gyeong assures him he has nothing to worry about since he is with him. In a meeting, Rook informs the pawns Sheldon, Sean, Katrina, and Bordeaux that Knight underwent self-destruction rather than receive further torture. He then orders the bishop to take the position of knight for the time being, since it is now vacant. But the permanent knight will be someone else, whom the king has already chosen. Sean is then advised to continue focusing on his mission to destroy the Black Dragon Society, as Bishop will take care of the portal. Rook then asks everyone except Bishop to leave the room and tells her that Hyunsoo has agreed to raid the portal. Hyunsoo lands at the airport in China and is received by a man named Hang. 3 days ago, in China, there was a meeting of the Trio Alliance Association, which dominated the markets of China and the world for generations before disappearing once the Black Dragon Society, led by King Lan, appeared. Chang Woowi, leader of the organization Greed, rallies his men so that they can rise back to the top and usher in a new era. Hyunsoo visits his brother at the hospital before leaving to meet Hayurak. She advises him to prepare thoroughly for the portal and reveals that she is close with King Lan, since they are the only 2 women among S ranks. She urges Hyunsoo to come back alive soon after he takes his leave. Once he's gone, Hayurak tests her returning powers. Hyunsoo is led by Hang to a luxury car, which will take him to his destination in about 4 hours. On his way, Hyunsoo witnesses an explosion and asks to stop the car. Hang assures him that accidents happen often and someone else will take care of them. They arrive at the headquarters of the Black Dragon Society, and Hyunsoo is taken to King Lan's exclusive residence. Once they have settled inside, Hyunsoo inquires about the explosion he saw on his way here. King Lan informs him that it was done by the gang known as Greed, who are after the destruction of the Black Dragon Society. She then advises him to focus on the portal and gives him an A-rank elixir they obtained from raiding an A-rank portal. No one knows its effects, but it'll increase his chances of survival. Hyunsoo is reluctant to take it, but King Lan explains that it's okay for him to take it, as he's the one who must protect humanity. Hyunsoo gives in, and as he's being taken to his accommodations, King Lan asks him if he can use telekinesis since he's carrying a box above his head. To Gyeong's displeasure, Hyunsoo explains he's using the ability of material shift rather than psychokinesis. As soon as they get inside their room, Gyeong explains to Hyunsoo that the feeling of having two brains that he's been having recently means that the level of his thought is low. It's not that his brain has become two. He has simply awakened a part of it that was previously unused. If he's able to use it well, he could reach the supreme peak and break into the evolutionary realm. If Hyunsoo eats the elixir given by King Lan, he'll be able to maintain his thought better. As soon as Hyunsoo eats the elixir, his yin-yang body reacts to the new yang energy and soon surpasses the yin energy. As a result, the heavenly demon's internal energy starts to reject it, and in his efforts to control it, Hyunsoo undergoes excruciating pain. A servant knocks on Hyunsoo's door to deliver his meal, and when he doesn't answer, he pushes it open with a gun in his hand, expecting the worst. He finds the room completely trashed and Hyunsoo full of scraps and bruises. Hyunsoo opens his status window and learns that by absorbing the powerful yang energy, he has awakened the previously dormant heavenly demon body at level 0, which grants him an increase in all physical abilities by 150%. He would have been half paralyzed or dead if he had failed to absorb it. Hyunsoo refuses the servant's offer to change rooms, and after he leaves, they enjoy their meal of Beijing duck. The next day, Queen Lan observes how different Hyunsoo seems after eating the elixir, and wonders if she should have eaten it instead. At his request, she then leads Hyunsoo to her personal underground training grounds so that he can test his new strength. With a simple punch, Hyunsoo destroys complete walls, but when he tries to concentrate the power to create a hole in them, he is unable to control it enough to do so. Hyunsoo meditates and tries to access the memories of all the past 33 heavenly demons, but he can only go as far back as the first 9 at level 0. As he goes through the memories of the rest, he finds the mystic arts of the 10th demon were very different from the present ones. The 11th seemed very interested in medical techniques. The 21st was probably the one who completed the exploding heavens technique, and the 27th heavenly demon, Ryujong, possessed energy techniques of an unprecedented standard. But there was also a time when Ryu was unable to control his own internal energy, like Hyunsoo. Eventually, he developed the heavenly demon mystic circulation technique, the strongest circulation technique in history, to control it. Using this technique, every single cell of Ryu's body would interact with his internal energy. Hyunsoo attempts to follow his example. Meanwhile, Shaw and Wu Wei discuss their coordinated attacks on terrorism across China. In case the Black Dragons interfere, Wu Wei is ready to lay down his life to protect his mission, and is confident they can succeed as long as Kung Lan doesn't get involved. To help him, Sean gives him a box of small red balls called Transcendent Immortal that will grant an A rank like him the strength of an S rank or higher for 10 minutes, after which he will experience great pain down to his bone. To test it out, Wu Wei feeds one of the balls to his C rank bodyguard, who promptly transforms into a beastly superhuman on the level of an A rank. This satisfies Wu Wei greatly and gives him more confidence in his plan. On the other hand, Hyunsoo has achieved the legendary rank skill, the Heavenly Demon Mystic Circulation. The level of his Heavenly Demon body immediately increases from 0 to 1, granting him an increase in all his physical abilities by 170%. He then tests them out by using seed impact and drilling perfect holes in the walls as he had desired. much to King Lan's surprise. At the Tibetan plateau, Bishop stands outside the portal, whose intensity has increased to 92, disappointing her with its slow speed when she went through the trouble of capturing something dangerous inside it in wait of Hyunsoo. Shan arrives to report his successful delivery of the transcendent immortal to Wooey. Bishop then hands him a remote that will allow him to detonate a person once they become useless after eating it. Before she leaves, Bishop tells Shan to prepare Choi Jae-hook in advance. Members of Greed ambush innocent citizens by releasing a bomb in the city. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo uses the heavenly demon mystic circulation together with mana to create an azure-colored energy that impresses his master. At that moment, King Lan receives a call, but before she can tell him about it, Hyunsoo uses the technique of domain detection to find out about the explosion in the city and immediately takes off. After asking civilian hostages, Chang Wu-wei calls the Black Dragon's complaint center to demand a ransom of 100 billion yuan in 30 minutes from King Lan. Hyunsoo arrives at that moment, and the members of Greed open fire at him, which has no effect on him. When Gyeong instructs him to punish these people who have killed innocent people for their purposes, Hyunsoo picks up bullet shells and throws them at the enemy at an incredible speed. Wooey, looking in from the sidelines, orders his men to use the transcendent immortals he gave them, which transform them into superhumans. All 7 of the beasts charge at Hyunsoo, but he easily avoids their attacks and starts taking them out in single strikes. Wooey then decides to step into the battle himself and consume a transcendent immortal. From the sky, Shan observes Hyunsoo's battle with the 7 transformed A-ranked members of Greed, surprised that he can take them all at once. King Lan silently approaches him from behind, and a fight ensues between them as well. Wooey is delighted when his body surges with power after he's transformed, while Hyunsoo worries about evacuating citizens. He uses material shift to carry them on invisible hands, but Wooey takes the opportunity to come flying at them, ready to kill. Hyunsoo performs the technique Falling Heavens and avoids the attack easily, while King Lan overwhelms Shan with her rapid-fire moves. When Wooey sends a huge ball of fire his way, Hyunsoo uses a powerful root impact to extinguish the flames and defeat Wooey, then follows it up with a barrier technique to permanently protect the citizens behind a shield. Gyeong is impressed as he realizes it's Hyunsoo's own technique that he developed using mana. Above them, Shan worriedly notices that he can no longer feel the energies of the members of Greed before he transforms into his original beastly form to counter King Lan's overwhelming power. Before she can react to his next attack, Hyunsoo comes flying in with leaf impact and cleanly slices off Shan's limbs. Hyunsoo uses Halley's ring to transform his arm into a clawed gauntlet, then grabs Chan's neck from behind and squeezes it. He's about to deliver the killing blow when King Lan stops him, telling him he's related to the king. Men from the Black Dragon Society barge into the vice president's home to arrest him, only to find him already dead by suicide. Bishop informs Rook about Shan's capture, but he's not too worried as they got to find out more about the transcendent immortals. They further talk about the war that happened on Ares. They did eventually manage to win against the strong warriors of Ares, but their will was defeated on Earth. They don't know how that was possible, and it's understandable to be scared, but they have the king on their side who believes in them. Anderson performs his experiments on Shan to create a clone that will look exactly like him. From behind a screen, Robin and King Lan observe him and talk about how easily Hyunsoo defeated the enemies. King Lan informs Robin that he is probably stronger than Haksun, which leads him to compare Hyunsoo with Isaac, who seems to have hit a rut. Upon Robin's inquiry, Anderson informs him that the portal-creating umbrella they confiscated from Knight has the same functions as the portal generator they made. He believes the age of easily moving around through portals will soon arrive. King Lan then takes her leave. The next day, she and Hyunsoo stand outside the portal, with Hyunsoo equipped the teeth with special items and weapons. King Lan tells him to be careful before he enters the portal, and she returns to her team, that's stationed some distance away because of the portal's pressure. Inside the portal, Hyunsoo is ambushed by a succession of enhanced energy attacks. He can feel the perpetrators, but can't see them, so he activates a B-rank shield via a belt that he's wearing. However, the next attack cuts through it easily, surprising Hyunsoo. He then uses the Black Dragon cannon and fires it at the forest, causing a huge explosion. When the attacker still doesn't come forward, Hyunsoo threatens to destroy the whole forest. This immediately brings forth a mystical creature who claims the forest as her own. Furious at the threat, she yells at Hyunsoo with such strength that the pressure of her words causes an explosion in his face. He's barely recovered when she's at him again, unleashing one attack after another. Hyunsoo blocks and dodges, all of them as they acknowledge each other's power. When she attacks again, Hyunsoo manages to trap her under the consecutive lightning heavens technique, which sends her falling towards the ground. She recovers quickly, however, and unleashes a maze of energy beams that, despite trying, Hyunsoo is unable to dodge. Hyunsoo lies injured and unconscious on the ground after the mystical creature's attacks. She swoops in from the sky to deliver the killing blow, but right at that moment, Hyunsoo's ring activates reflect damage, and his eyes jerk open. The impact of the mystical creature's attack rocks the entire forest and would have certainly killed Hyunsoo, but the smoke clears to reveal an empty crater in the place where her fist connected instead of Hyunsoo's prone form. Hyunsoo is, in fact, floating in the air above her, already feeling refreshed thanks to the magical ring. Another of its perks is the ability to reflect the damage that the enemy deals to its wearer. The creature coughs up blood as a result, dropping to her knees from the sudden, invisible assault. The pain draws out her true form. She goes from an orange-haired, six-tailed kid to a silver-haired, seven-tailed woman. She can't stay in this form for long, but she believes it's enough to defeat Hyunsoo. Indeed, Hyunsoo feels unable to command his body to move, and it takes his master's warning to pull himself together and back away. The creature conjures strong bindings made of pure energy and traps Hyunsoo, while his ring's ability to reflect damage is recharging. Instead, he activates the pendant on his neck to refresh himself and hasten the recharge time before his master instructs him to distract her and pour in a barrage of attacks. Obediently, Hyunsoo uses the technique Falling Heavens as a distraction while he charges the heavenly spiritual body. Before he can reach her, she opens her mouth and creates a dark and intense energy ball that she sends straight at Hyunsoo. He is caught under the attack and suffers through another explosion, but manages to come out of it alive and well, much to the mystical creature's annoyance. Now, with all her 8 tails revealed as the mystical creature unleashes her next attack, Hyunsoo activates Halley's ring, which lets him imitate his master's version of the heavenly spiritual body. Despite her power, the mystical creature stands no chance against it, and as soon as their attacks collide, she ends up falling out of the sky from the impact. Hyunsoo finally defeats the fox-like magical creature and is about to kill her on his master's orders when she mumbles something about this forest belonging to her and Rhyme. The story flashes to the past, where the creature, called Iris, promises a girl named Rhyme that she'll protect the forest from the humans, who, it turns out, are only after Iris. After Bishop invades and captures Rhyme, she has to run away. In the present, Hyunsoo tells Iris that the forest is only a portal designed to keep her from endangering the humans outside. That is why they came in looking to kill her and to protect themselves. He continues to scan the portal's surroundings while she freaks out about who Hyunsoo is talking to, unable to see his master. In another world, Bishop is waiting for Hyunsoo while thinking about what's taking him so long. She decides to go in and check, ordering Jae-hyuk to follow her as well. While in the portal, Hyunsoo thinks about how to end the portal and get out, activating his true spiritual body. Hyunsoo's concentrated attack of energy creates a crack in the sky. He also awakens a unique conceptualization, mind destruction, that impresses his master. Upon Hyunsoo's recommendation, Iris transforms back into her 8-tailed form before the two of them launch into the sky towards the growing crack. As she prepares to leave through it first, a portal opens up in front of her, and a heavily armored man slices a sword at her, wounding her severely. Iris immediately counterattacks, but both the man and the portal have already disappeared. Hyunsoo is wondering how someone else was able to enter the portal when the man appears again from below. Iris charges at him, but before she can reach him, countless daggers are conjured in the sky and pierce her from every angle. Hyunsoo rushes towards her as she falls out of the sky, unconscious and transformed into her younger form. The armored man faces off against Hyunsoo, now with the intention to kill him. When Hyunsoo is confused about his identity, Young informs him that the man seems familiar. Right at that moment, Bishop arrives via a portal. Impressed at Hyunsoo's ability to charm Iris and create a crack in the portal she made, Hyunsoo transfers Hallie's ring from his finger to Iris's as Bishop introduces herself. She then produces a huge energy ball, ready to kill Hyunsoo, just as the armored man charges at him as well. Hyunsoo activates the technique Damage Reflection, which sends his opponent's attacks back at them. When the man persists, Hyunsoo punches him in the face, knocking away his helmet. Gyeong recognizes him instantly as Choi Jae-hyuk, who stands there mumbling about revenge. Hyunsoo continues his attack and sends him flying away. When Iris wakes up, he carries her back up to the crack. Bishop shows up to interrupt them, but Hyunsoo manages to throw her towards it before Bishop comes to attack. With a technique called Conceptualization Mind Destruction, Hyunsoo deflects the onslaught of multiple daggers, surprising Bishop. Young is also impressed because Hyunsoo used the root impact to shake up the foundation, with Conceptualization to dig up the roots. On the other hand, Bishop worries that he has gotten stronger since he fought against Night, and can't believe a singularity could be this strong. While Hyunsoo uses Exploding Heavens, Bishop confidently calls upon the vengeful spirits that died within the portals. But in a seemingly effortless move, Hyunsoo absorbs all the souls into the gauntlet. When Hyunsoo attacks, an already shocked Bishop is unable to take it and falls from the sky. Although before she can drop to the ground, Rondbell comes to catch her midair. Setting her down, Rondbell shoots up to attack in a close combat style, taking Hyunsoo unawares. Chungyeong is shocked to find Hyuntai's bed empty when she visits him at the hospital. Iris is lost inside a void-like space where she runs into Rook, who immediately attacks her. Iris tries to counter, but is surprised when her attacks pass through him. Rook tells her that her friend Rhyme is still alive, and that they're keeping her under surveillance. Unresponsive in her shock, Iris does not move to defend herself when Rook charges at her. He is suddenly stopped, however, by the surprising presence of Hyunsoo's brother, Hyuntae. He uses a technique called Forced Teleportation to send Rook flying away. He then points Iris towards a light and tells her to follow it. It will take her back to where she came from. When Iris asks, he reveals that he is someone else inside Hyuntae's body, before urging her to quickly leave. Meanwhile, Hyunsoo battles Rondbell in close combat, in which Hyunsoo is unable to use his conceptualization techniques. After taking several hits, Hyunsoo produces a mana bomb that explodes near Rondbell. Bishop attempts to recover so that she can rejoin the fight, while Gyeong informs Hyunsoo not to bother too long with Rondbell, as he does not have murderous intentions. Sure enough, when Hyunsoo attacked next with Falling Heavens, instead of defending, he ran away. Hyunsoo then moves on to Bishop and punches her in the stomach before she can see him coming. He doesn't let her counter and followed it up with a fist to her face. Robin and the others surprise Isaac with a birthday celebration. After enjoying the cake, Robin activates a hidden compartment in the room and presents Isaac with a sword that he was instructed to pass on to him at the right time. On the other hand, in a fight with the Bishop, Hyunsoo puts her down before she can take the immortal, transcendent, and power herself up. While the fight resulted in Hyunsoo leveling up, Young has also been given a special ability. He learns that he can possess Hyunsoo, which reminds him of a warning from CO to disappear immediately on a certain day, and wonders if that day has arrived. Queen Lan of the Black Dragon Society marches to the portal with her men and senses that its Anderson index has dropped rapidly, which, she guesses, must mean that Hyunsoo has succeeded in completing it. No sooner has she said that, Hyunsoo walks out of another portal and expresses his gratitude to King Lan for the items she gave him earlier. If not for them, he would have died. When Queen Lan asks why he stepped out of a different portal, Hyunsoo tells her that he wasn't able to kill the existence within the portal. Until she tells him of it, Hyunsoo doesn't realize he's been there for a month and not just 2 hours. Queen Lan informs him that his brother has awakened, but also shares the news that Robin from the Portal Strategy Committee died the previous day. In a church, Isaac is grieving his master's death. Robin walks to a lake to fish and finds a mysterious old man already there, fishing like a pro. When Robin asks about his identity, his wrinkled features melt away into those of a young man, the king. He calls Robin Newman and is there to kill him. Robin, however, is not about to go down without a fight. Isaac wakes up to find Robin by his side. His master informs him that he can no longer remain by his side and advises him to keep moving forward. Before he can explain, Robin disappears in a flash of lightning and smoke, so Isaac assumes it was a dream. Meanwhile, some men in protective suits enter an area that is cordoned off and are met by a standing skeleton. Hyunsoo comes to meet his brother and is shocked to find out that someone else is possessing his body. Furious, Hyunsoo demands if he was the one who put his brother in his state. But the person clarifies that it was the king who also caused the portal impact to happen. He's the one who's actually helping his brother stay in suspended animation, so he doesn't die. He's Mare, the divine entity of Ares. Mare is the one who brought Gyeong here too, and he is bound by a contract to the will of the dead people of Ares. To explain, Mare conjures up an illusion of the past that shows Hyunsoo, the people of Ares, scrambling to defend themselves after attacks from the knight and bishop and their army of monsters. Newman, a man possessing the same powers as Robin, is forced to freeze time as a consequence. Mare explains that Robin inherited his abilities from Newman, as did all others who awakened. The people of Ares possessed all sorts of special powers, but they were also a source of conflict among them. Newman managed to unite them by gathering the 11 kings and leading them towards peace. All of those 11 people possessed powers and personalities, complementing those of the 11 S-rank hunters, including Haksen and Hayurak. The person who helped Newman in his efforts for unification was Paul, the counterpart of the chief commander who led S-rank hunters on Earth, Choi Sang-ho. Choi Sang-ho was Hayurak's boss. His counterpart Paul helped Newman unite the people of Ares, and they started to fight back against the king with all they had. At first, they did well because a united Ares army was as strong as the enemy, but their success lasted only until Queen started to move. Queen is the strongest living weapon, made from the cells of the 4 ancient kings and the current king with science and magic. She was stronger than any attack available, and the people of Ares weren't a match for her. That is why Newman had no choice but to look for Mare and urge him to do something, to protect the people of Ares. Mare informs him that the reason he can't help is because there's a transcendent behind the king and his men. The only way to continue the will of the people of Ares is to pass it over to the people of another planet. Newman begged Mare to do it, beyond caring about any consequences. Mare then explains to Hyunsoo that singularities are variables, a power that didn't exist in Ares and something that the king didn't know about. He's currently in Hyuntai's body because this is the price he has to pay for making the hunters on Earth. Additionally, he traversed numerous dimensions to find Hyunsoo's master, Chungyeong, and for the sake of giving Isaac the sword, Hyunsoo then asks Mare whether the prophecy regarding singularities saving the world is true, to which Mare expresses that it is his desire. And now that Hyunsoo has killed both the knight and bishop and captured a pawn, his desire is becoming a reality. Robin couldn't possibly have looked into the future far enough to confirm the prophecy, because it's impossible to climb above the power of divine entity. Hyunsoo inquires about the identity of the transcendent behind King, but Mare is unaware of him too. All he did was stop Mare from helping Ares. Mare painstakingly chose Hyunsoo, Isaac, and the third singularity and groomed them to be the people's hope. Meanwhile, Isaac holds the sword Robin gave him as a voice emanating from it, asks him whether he wants power. In the church, the sword is speaking to Isaac, prompting him to use its power to exact revenge against the one who killed his master. When Isaac agrees, it produces a parchment in the air and tells him to sign it with his blood. The moment he does as asked, the sword bleeds its soul onto Isaac, covering him up with black armor. Amon enters the church and does not recognize Isaac in the armor. Isaac assures her of his identity and promises to have his revenge before disappearing from the room. Mare takes his leave in order to rest, but before leaving, he informs Hyunsoo that his brother has completely recovered and will wake up naturally very soon. A strong seal was cast on him in order to save him because he couldn't be allowed to receive any external impact or have anything happen to him. But thanks to Hyunsoo using a strong technique to loosen the seal, Ma-rae was able to get out easily. Hyunsoo then leaves the hospital to visit her Yurak, who has completely recovered. Her hair color is back to normal, and her powers have returned. Hyunsoo notices a portal in her room, which she informs him was made by the Portal Strategy Committee and is present at all important places. Hyurak then takes Hyunsoo to a meeting of the S-ranks, where he meets another hunter named Mode Alexander. The meeting was called to inform everyone about Hyunsoo's successful attempt to kill Bishop and the recent information he learned about the transcendent behind King. Hyunsoo explains to the rest of them that King's group can simply be seen as pirates of the universe. They'd launch surprise attacks on planets they liked and plunder them. The method they used the most was to create portals, summon monsters, and raze everything to the ground. He then brings them up to date about Ma-rae and the information he imparted. According to Hyunsoo, there was once a war between divine entities that became a legendary tale on Earth. It was a battle between the divine and Satan, in which Satan lost and was sealed away in the depths of the planet. However, an existence known as the Annihilation Dragon appeared on Earth with the intent to revive Satan. The king planned to conquer Earth and use the Annihilation Dragon as a fighting force, but their intentions for it remain unclear. Their plans were halted when they discovered a hunter named Choi Sang-ho, who had the power to strengthen seals. When Sang-ho learned about the Annihilation Dragon, he prepared a spell to reinforce its seal, prompting the king to threaten the destruction of Earth. In exchange for not destroying the planet for 5 years, Sang-ho agreed to the king's demand that he commit suicide. After Hyunsoo's explanation, Queen Lan and the Black Dragon Society agree to follow him, while the rest join forces with him. However, Haksun refuses to follow someone weaker than himself. To satisfy Haksun's demand for a fight, Hyunsoo leads them all to the portal inside his house. A battle ensues, with Hyunsoo launching a series of quick attacks that Haksun can't defend against. Eventually, Haksun is left injured and exhausted, surprised that he isn't the strongest fighter. Hyunsoo cements his position as their leader by using his exploding heavens technique to finish the fight. Afterwards, he helps Haksun up and invites him out to dinner. Hyunsoo and Haksun bond during a bath, discussing the difference between being strong and being a leader. They agree that Haksun's strength is crucial for unifying the awakened to defeat the king. When Haksun asks about the portal in Hyunsoo's house, he admits that monsters don't come out of it, but refuses to provide further details. Later, Hyunsoo visits Robin's home and vows to train as much as possible to avenge him. The news spreads that the organization behind the portals is led by a man named King, leading to the merger of all guilds into the New World Association, led by Hyurak. While Hyunsoo is away for personal training, Hyurak informs Lee Minor that 80% of the portals have been handled, and Haksun has volunteered to deal with the A-rank portal in Ethiopia. However, Amon interrupts with news that an S-rank portal has appeared over the Pacific Ocean. Meanwhile, at the castle, Rook oversees the king's subjects, working on a wrapped body, apparently the strongest one found in countless dimensions. Later, Rook attends a meeting with the pawns and is introduced to Kabon, a famous mage in the East universe. They discuss the hunters, who have formed a team of 30 A ranks and 1 S rank to deal with the discovered portal, but there's still no sign of Park Hyunsoo. While 90% of the linkage between the 7 portals has been established, Chavon points out that the 4 of them can't be present at all, 7 portals. Rook explains that the central portal is known as the last portal and links to the remaining 6. They'll be entering 4 of the portals, excluding the central one. As for the 2 remaining portals, someone is already dealing with the 5th, while the 6th will be handled by the person handling Park Hyunsoo. Rook advises them to fight with all their strength in their respective portals, since they've been permitted to fight in their original forms. When the pawn asks about the restrictions previously made in the contract with Paul, the Rook promises to take on all restrictions using the watch of casualty. At the Pacific portal, the hunters worry that it's the largest they've ever seen, with a diameter of around 2 kilometers. When Hyunsoo arrives, Hyurak notes that he still seems the same, even though he's been training. That is so because he has attained the level of origin reversal, where someone returns to their initial state. This means that their energy is detected as low level by others. Since the barrier around the portal prevents anyone from approaching it, the hunters have brought the most potent weapon humanity has ever developed: nuclear. Jill Lauderman covers the portal with his energy to prevent the radiation from the nuclear missile from leaking into their atmosphere. The missile is fired as soon as the preparations are done, and Jill gives his all to contain it. Their team then enters the portal and finds a landscape of ruins. When they are immediately attacked by a huge number of monsters, all hunters face off against them, taking them out easily. Hyunsoo conducts an analysis of the place and learns that 6 portals are linked, with 1 portal in the middle. He then unleashes his technique, Falling Heavens, to kill all the monsters at once. After informing Hyurak of his reconnaissance, Hyunsoo takes off. He lands in an amusement park where there appear to be actual people. Bordeaux, the pawn, has constructed this place with his consciousness. Hyunsoo suddenly finds himself on a roller coaster that is leading towards a broken track. The cart rides off the track, where it breaks, and the people all fall out. When Hyunsoo lands safely on the ground, the scene repeats itself from the beginning. Bordeaux announces on a speaker that Hyunsoo has lost the first game. He explains to him that since he doesn't like fighting, he reconstructed various dimensions and spaces the moment Hyunsoo stepped in here. He refuses to rise to Hyunsoo's goading and insists on fighting from the sidelines. That's when he begins the second game. Hyunsoo refuses to play Bordeaux's games as he realizes the space he constructed is nothing but an illusion. He activates the conceptualization technique, mind destruction, and delivers a punch that instantly defeats his opponent. He finishes the man off with exploding heavens. Gyeong mentions Hallie still being asleep because he's going through a growth phase. Hunters fight against various kinds of monsters. Takeshi, after defeating a giant snake he found in the lake, looks for the boss monster of the portal. In another portal, hunters are overwhelmed by the seemingly endless number of zombies until Hyurak comes to help. The zombies are led by a king who welcomes her into his parasite kingdom, where despite her attack, the zombies keep coming. Takeshi is inside an illusion until Jill jerks him out. He hands him a gas mask before a pawn shows up behind them as the boss of the portal. She shrinks the illusion powder in the air. Hence, despite the mask, Jill gets sucked into an illusion. Takeshi, who remains unaffected thanks to his energy arts, which let him survive without breathing for 10 hours, swings his sword at the pawn. Hyurak notices a pillar of light in the distance, indicating that Takeshi and Jill have succeeded in their portal. The Selden parasite lets go of the zombies and instead attempts to take over the hunters as his hosts. Small parasitic worms climb on the hunters' bodies, and soon Hyurak is facing off against her own men, now under Selden's control. To kill the worms off them, Hyurak burns them away, using her fire that doesn't harm her A-rank warriors. After taking the hunters to safety, Hyurak charges at Selden, who transforms himself into a gigantic worm. However, he's much weaker than the monster Gulag, and Hyurak is easily able to use her technique, the Prisma Sword, to slice off its head. However, Selden refuses to die. Meanwhile, Rook is sitting with a slave girl he captured from Ares, who's a sister to both Rondbell and Izan, knight's subordinate whom Onsu killed. Rondbell used to be a king of Ares, and the girl is holding out hope that her brother will soon come and save her. For her insolence, Rook uses his power to slam her into the ground. On the other hand, Rondbell faces off against Hyunsoo. Determined to kill him to save his sister and avenge Izan, he charges at Hyunsoo and unleashes a volley of powerful punches. As Hyunsoo puts up his hands to block them, he apologizes for the death of his sister. He then counterattacks with the technique Cloud Scattered Heavens, which pushes Rondbell back after dealing him some damage to his arm. Facing a stronger Hyunsoo, Rondbell is ready to put his life on the line to fulfill his goal. Rondbell's technique Lost Heaven creates multiple clones of himself that surround Hyunsoo and ambush him from all sides. He gets severely beaten up until, upon his master's instructions, he uses Heavenly Demon Soul Shed to break free of Rondbell's grip. He then proceeds to cause an explosion that pushes Rondbell back. Undeterred, Ron Bell comes at him again with all his clones. In another portal, Qing Lan and her subordinates battle a gigantic green monster. She breaks out of the thorny vines that trap her and charges at the monster, only to get thrown away by its punch. The mage from King's group arrives on the scene and heals the monster's hand that Qing Lan sliced off. After she recovers, Qing Lan fires a volley of energy beams at the mage, but he neutralizes them, so she follows up with another attack. When he blocks it without needing to chant any incantations, Qing Lan powers up her abilities, not caring about the penalty that reduces her age. Hyunsoo suffers through the attacks of Rondbell and his clones, but when he mocks him, Hyunsoo unleashes the heavenly demon dominating stride. He quickly follows it up with mind destruction and exploding heavens, pushing Rondbell to the ground. Qing Lan appears to be no match for the mage as she fights him while protecting her subordinates. All of a sudden, he flies off. As soon as he's gone, Qing Lan is confused to see a pillar of light emerge, indicating the portal has been completed. When Rondbell is almost defeated, he reveals that his last living sister is now dead as well, and plunges his hand into his chest, pulling out his life vessel. He had originally planned to kill the king after dealing with Hyunsoo, but now he hands his mission and life vessel over to him, believing him to be strong enough for it. Hallie wakes up at that moment and eats the life vessel, which immediately levels up his ring and grants Hyunsoo an increase in his strength and the additional ability of attraction. A light pillar in the sky reveals that there is only one portal left, and Hyunsoo takes off towards it, equipped with reinforced armor thanks to Hallie's ring. The mage shows up at the place Hyunsoo just vacated, disappointed that he didn't come to him, and decides to wait and observe how much power Hyunsoo can unleash in the last portal. There's a barrier outside the portal, but Hyunsoo is able to pass through it easily. The forest inside it seems familiar to Gyeong, and he soon realizes, much to his anger, that it's a replica of his hometown. A man emerges from the lake in front of them, holding a spear with a huge blade. Gyeong instantly recognizes him as Seo, his most beloved captain of the evil Tiger Squad. He tells Hyunsoo that this was the place where he sacrificed himself in order to save him. Furious at the audacity of the enemy, Gyeong orders Hyunsoo to protect Seo's honor, so Hyunsoo charges at his revived corpse. Seo swings his dark mist spear, which Hyunsoo dodges using falling heavens. Furious to see someone imitating the heavenly demon's techniques, Seo charges at Hyunsoo. Seo swings his spear using the technique called Crow Surge. Chungyeong instructs Hyunsoo to not lose sight of the spear's tip and charge right into it. Obediently, Hyunsoo lunges with Seed Impact, but Seo's next swing of the spear pierces him and pushes him to the ground. Hyunsoo gets back up, trying to make Seo understand that he's dead and is only being used by the king, but it only angers him further. When Seo strikes next, Hyunsoo charges at him using the heavenly spiritual body. Their attacks collide, surprising them both. Hyunsoo reveals he's the heavenly demon's disciple, which prompts a confused Seo to charge with another powerful strike. As he wonders how Hyunsoo learned these techniques, Hyunsoo is instructed to use his new ability, Attraction, to take Seo's weapon away from him. However, he can't find an opening as they battle each other, almost evenly matched. Seo, ready to end it, unleashes his conceptualization technique, Dark Mist, Sixth Form. Hyunsoo is unable to move out of the way of it, because Seo snuck in a few conceptualizations on him bit by bit. Hence, Hyunsoo gets struck down out of the sky, severely wounded. Gyeong wonders if he should possess Seo, if this is the time he was told not to hesitate, but Hyunsoo refuses to let him. As Seo approaches, Hyunsoo attempts to use Attraction. The spear jumps out of Seo's hand and into Hyunsoo's, who gets ready to take down his senior. Rook sits by a huge hourglass, the watch of casualties, wondering if the king is really going to abandon them. As soon as the watch is completed, it explodes, granting Rook a power-up. Hyunsoo prepares to kill Seo with his spear in one shot. He uses the heavenly spiritual body to charge at the other man, who attempts to dodge but ends up getting struck down with a huge explosion. Defeated, as Seo fades away, he asks for Hyunsoo's name, and is finally able to see the ghost of his master standing beside Hyunsoo. Gyeong bids his disciple goodbye, and an exhausted Hyunsoo falls to the ground. Hayurak takes note of the light pillar emerging from Hyunsoo's portal that indicates it has been completed. Gyeong rushes to Hyunsoo's side and places his hand on his chest, attempting to revive him. Outside the forest, the mage wonders if the fight ended in a tie, which would leave Isaac as their last remaining hope. After managing to endure the power from the watch of casualties, Rook falls out of the sky near a portal. A man walks out of it, revealing that he spent years watching King and might have overestimated him. When Rook demands to know his identity, he announces that, simply put, he's an author or a director. In some places, he's called a divine entity, and in others, he's feared as a demon. Things have gotten boring for him recently, so he's decided to reorganize the characters. Deeming Rook an inconsequential side character, the director deletes him with a flash of energy. He expresses his disappointment in King and his pity for Hyunsoo before deciding to take care of things on his own. We really hope that you enjoyed the first part of this manhwa. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.